You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1151. 1151 Chapter 275, If I Don't Go to Hell, Who Will Go to Hell? Asks for a subscription, 4. On the other side, Zhu Hongliang chuckled and said, Eighth sister, don't say too much. It's fine if Grandpa doesn't lose his temper, but if he does, everyone should behave themselves. Otherwise, if you anger Grandpa, he will lock you up in a small black room for a few months, and you will go crazy. I want you to say too much. Zhu Qinyan was extremely depressed, and he wanted to scold her too. In the next moment, Zhu Hongwen said with a smile, Don't talk too much. Let's not talk about this anymore. However, Grandpa values Suyu more. This point is true. Hongliang, how do you feel after interacting with Suyu a few times? Zhu Hongliang laughed and said, I have little contact with him. He's quite a cautious person. However, he was also very brave. Just as Grandpa said, he ran from the Great Xia Mansion to the Great Ming Mansion and fished out a few suns and moons. If it were us, we might not dare to do it. He was very ruthless. He was very vicious. Looking at his information, he was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He deliberately killed Jai Feng, angered Zhou Pingsheng, exposed the mountain and sea guards, and brought along the students of the 10,000 races who were not friendly to him. TSK, the students of the Yunhu and the other clans are really unlucky. They are willing to go out with Suyu because they think that Suyu has something to gain. In the end, they are dead. The Demon Suppression Army and the Dragon Martial Guards are currently attacking these clans. The gods, demons, and strong clans are not easy to deal with. They are attacking the human geniuses. The weak clans are so bold. It is fine if they are not caught, but if they are caught, unless the gods, demons, and strong clans are willing to fight with the Great Xia Mansion, these clans will suffer a great loss even if they are not destroyed. Zhu Hongliang shook his head and said, Look at his information. After looking at it for a while, I can tell that the people who were able to make a name for themselves in the Great Xia Mansion and come to our Daming Mansion unscathed are not good people. Eighth sister, to be honest, they might not be interested in you. That Wu Lan is also the daughter of the Wu family. She risked thousands of miles to look for Suyu. In the end, she did not fall into any reputations. I think this Suyu is not that easy to get close to. You should relax. Damn fatty, are you saying that Suyu doesn't like me? Zhu Qinyan was furious. Zhu Hongliang shrugged. It was obvious. Eighth sister, don't provoke him. If this Suyu really does harm to you, our grandfather might not care. Humph, I'm not stupid. Zhu Qinyan was depressed. What did I do? All of you think that I would provoke him. I'll stay away from him. At the same time. In the back garden. Zhu Tiandao did not meet Suyu in the main hall. Instead, he went to the back garden. At this moment, Zhu Tiandao was sitting on a stone bench. When he saw Suyu and the others arrive, he beckoned for them to sit down. He smiled and said, You came just in time. Someone just happened to offer a few boxes of pastries. Let's have a taste together. Old one, I heard that you have also entered the Primordial Spirit Research Institute. Yes, manor head. Don't be so polite. Zhu Tiandao laughed and said, Come, let's eat something. Look at you guys. Have you eaten dinner? Do you want to eat together? There's no need. Suyu smiled and said, Manor head is too polite. Don't be so reserved. Just treat it as your own home. Zhu Tiandao laughed and said, Just now, my Qin Yen was still saying that Suyu actually came. She also wanted to see you. That gaze, that tone, she couldn't wait to rush over. Kid, did you do something to my Qin Yen? Suyu was speechless and depressed. What did I do? I didn't even see her. Zhu Tiandao chuckled and said, I'm warning you. It's fine to talk about friends, but don't make a little Su out of it before this. The Zhu family is from a prestigious family, you can't be so shameless. If you really have the intention, then propose a marriage. It's not like I don't agree. Su Yu was depressed, helpless, and embarrassed. I really am not close to your granddaughter. Zhu Tiandao teased her a little, he smiled and said, all right, I'm too lazy to get involved in the affairs of young people. You too can fall in love freely. This girl, Qin Yan, can't bring herself to lose face. She likes to say provocative words to provoke you. That's the expression of a little girl who wants to attract your attention. Don't be like a blockhead, understand? Is that so? Su Yu thought about it. Could this be the case? No wonder Zhu Qinyan looked baffled when they first met. It was as if Su Yu was trying to curry favor with her. This was how their relationship was. This was the first time this woman had taken a fancy to him. She was trying to deliberately attract his attention. Scary. Women were indeed a roadblock. Unknowingly, he had almost fallen into her trap. He really thought that she was not interested in him. How terrifying. Su Yu did not dare to think too much about it. He just needed to stay away from her. Without wasting any more words, he quickly said, "Man or head, it's like this. I have a set of primordial spirit scripture here. It's a basic scripture, and I have 72 divine apertures. I think that this scripture should be of some help to all civilized masters in the world. Do you think it would be difficult for me to spread it?" Cough, cough, cough. Zhu Tiandao almost choked. Damn, so fast. You're giving me something just like that. Is this a betrothal gift? Su Yu's heart was tired. Mansion Master, we're talking about serious business. Zhu Tiandao also became serious. Are you serious? Of course. Zhu Tiandao stood up and walked around, he said seriously, you can spread it. This thing is very important. 72 divine apertures. If this thing were to spread out, the civilized master realm would definitely be shaken. The time it takes to enter Ling Yun would be shortened by at least 10 years. This is a shortening of time. In fact, if one were to awaken their divine apertures earlier, it would allow one to cultivate a few years earlier. In the future, Ling Yun realm would probably be 20 years younger than he is now. To be able to allow a Ling Yun to enter Ling Yun realm 20 years younger. According to the statistics, the average age of a human civilized master entering Ling Yun was around 60 years old. Under normal circumstances, those who were able to enter Ling Yun were all geniuses. There weren't many mediocre talents. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1152. 1152 Chapter 275, If I Don't Go to Hell, Who Will Go to Hell, 5. On average, he was already 60 years old. But now, once this cultivation technique was released, his age might be reduced to 40 years old. This was the average age. For some geniuses, they might be able to enter at the age of 20 or 30. Everyone was Wu Qi, and everyone was Lu Hong and the rest. At that time, geniuses were comparable to today's evildoers. Perhaps Ling Yun would be in his early 20s. This was a very important matter, a cultivation technique. Zhu Tiandao's expression changed as he said, I'll tell you a few things. First, if word gets out, you will definitely be targeted by the Myriad Clan sect. Your contribution points might instantly reach 100,000 or even higher. A few 100,000 is normal. Second, your important level will change from mountain and sea to sun and moon level. Thirdly, the danger will definitely increase, and the ruins that you might have will definitely be coveted by more people. When I say more people, it might include some invincible ones, do you know? Zhu Tiandao took a deep breath and said, Su Yu, are you sure you want to spread the word and not just a few people in private? Spread. Su Yu said seriously, if I don't go to hell, who will? For the sake of humanity and civilized masters, I am willing to take this risk. I only hope that everyone in the human realm can become civilized masters. Of course, I hope that all of humanity knows about these dangers because I want them to understand that I am brave enough to fight and am not afraid of danger. The subtext was, you have to spread these dangers. Let all of humanity know how much I have sacrificed for everyone. It was an exaggeration. In fact, it was even more serious. Su Yu had already thought it through. If he had nothing to do, he would get someone to spread the news about who had assassinated him and how he had escaped with his life. This was what Principal Niu had said. If he had done something good, he had to let the entire human race know. If no one knew that he had done something good, it would be equivalent to not doing it. Only a crying child would have milk to eat. People would come to assassinate me every few days, and all of this was for everyone. They had never thought of this before when they were doing the fusion technique. What a pity. They had wasted a great opportunity. Although they admired Su Yu's talent, they did not feel that it was too dangerous. They only felt that he had earned a lot of money and was highly valued. What Su Yu needed to let them know was not this, but how difficult it was for him. In short, he had to sell himself short. At this moment, Zhu Tiandao's face was a little stiff. What the F***ck, can you not act so pretentiously in front of me? For the sake of the entire human race. So good. Then your conditions are. There aren't any conditions. According to the rules, we'll split 10% from the academy and 30% from the main residence. When Su Yu said this, he quickly said, in addition, the transmission fee will be reduced. This is for those who want to cultivate their character. They don't have that much money. I suggest that we teach them the price and split it into 2 volumes. One volume has 36 divine apertures and one volume has 50 merit points. In this way, the completed volume will only require 100 merit points, which is worth around 3 million onping coins. Most families can afford to cultivate in the path of civilization. Even if my family is poor, I can still afford 50 merit points. Back then, when I was in a middle-tier academy, I received quite a number of merit points. If the students worked hard and their families supported them a little, ordinary families would be able to learn as well. Zhu Tiandao was speechless. Su Yu continued, in addition, it's only authorized to large mansions that have multiple divine inscriptions. Those that have been banned are not authorized to do so. Illegal dissemination is a crime. Mansion Master, please supervise. No one with multiple divine languages needs to be established immediately. Moreover, I want to see the real instructors of multiple divine languages above the sky realm. Only when there are more than 10 people in a department can it be spread. Also, the Civilization Academy of Great Xia is not to be spread. Zhu Tiandao's expression changed slightly when he heard this. You're making the Great Xia mansion lose face. Su Yu, this is not good. Su Yu gritted his teeth and said, I'd rather be scolded by some civilized masters of the Great Xia mansion. I'll do this. You. Sigh. Su Yu was happy to do this. He had vented his anger, but there would be a lot of trouble in the future. This kid was really holding a grudge. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1153. 1153 Chapter 276 Public Opinion 1. Su Yu had said that he would not spread information about Great Xia's Institute of Civilization, which made Zhu Tiandao a little surprised. He was also surprised by Su Yu's grudge. This little guy really wanted to fight to the death with Su Yu. Although he was happy in his heart, Zhu Tiandao still said, Su Yu, this is not very suitable. You have more or less some good friends over there. I'll spread it myself. Zhu Tiandao nodded. Then what is your request? To be honest, not letting the civilized students of the Great Xia Mansion learn is actually not that harmful to your enemies. In the air, it didn't really matter whether they learned or not. The main thing was to fly. Su Yu was silent for a while. He said, the current Great Xia Civilization Academy has a vice principal, including a new principal from the Nine Heavens Academy. They are all Sun and Moon realm cultivators. The moment they go to the Great Xia Mansion, they start to show hostility towards us and the many divine languages. Su Yu paused. He said slowly, I don't know if it's their own intention, or if it's a sign of seeking the realm, or if there's an invincible sign. No one is showing any signs. These two Sun and Moon cultivators are targeting the many divine languages as soon as they arrive. This doesn't make sense. I've even heard that they want to recruit the grandson of Shan Tianhao into the Great Xia Institute of Civilization. Su Yu's gaze was cold as he said, that Shan Xiong has challenged all sides and used his influence to force some large manners to ban the many divine languages. Shan Xiong was like a knife, representing the attitude of some people. Now, the Great Xia Civilization Academy actually wanted to accept this person into their manners. Since no one cared, and no one refused, then why should I be polite? Su Yu said in a deep voice, this matter has nothing to do with me. Many people in the Great Xia Civilization Academy's attitude is like this. It has nothing to do with me, so I don't care. Little do I know that if they don't care, it's the other party's capital to target. Since that's the case, I'll let them understand that if the Divine Literature Department targets us, then in the end, they will be collateral damage. They are not innocent. Because of their indulgence, they lost these opportunities. Speaking up to this point, Su Yu smiled and said, since they don't care about the fight between Shan Duo, then they also don't care about the cultivation technique I developed, right? My cultivation technique, I'll teach it if I like. Since you guys don't care, then I don't have to worry about your attitude. Zhu Tiandao slightly raised his eyebrows. This kid was really something. He was in Daming Manor, yet he was actually able to receive information from the Great Xia Manor. Not only that, he was even able to receive information from the Cabinet Elders meeting. Was he still in contact with that side? Zhu Tiandao understood what he meant and said, then what you mean is to force them to make a certain choice or give in. Su Yu smiled and said, at the very least, everyone who is forced must reject those who cause their interests to be damaged. I will be very direct. The Great Xia Manor has my enemies. I will not give my enemies the chance to strengthen themselves. As for who the enemies are, I won't say. They will taste it themselves. No one is stupid enough to increase the strength of their own enemies, right? Su Yu smiled and said, if you can understand it, then understand it. If you can't understand it, then forget it. If someone were to secretly learn my cultivation technique, I hope that the manor head can make the decision. I still have no way to manage the Great Xia Manor side. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, that's simple. If they were to secretly learn it, the Great Xia Manor will have to deal with it themselves. If they don't deal with it, then everyone should just follow suit. It's not like the Great Xia Manor doesn't have any cultivation technique to spread outside. In the future, no one will pay for it and everyone will just learn it directly. It's good too. In the future, it will be an era where cultivation techniques will be spread for free. No one is willing to disclose their cultivation technique to the public anymore. No one is willing to calm down and study their cultivation technique. If this continues, there will be a big problem sooner or later. Anyone with discerning eyes will be able to understand it. If cultivation techniques were to be spread without spending money, who would still be researching cultivation techniques? They would all be the same as Su Yu, spending neither time nor money in the early stages of their research. The civilized masters who were researching cultivation techniques had no money and were in debt. If they starved to death in the research institute, would they still have the energy to research? If this continued, sooner or later, it would cause the replacement of the entire cultivation technique to stagnate. The great Xia manor naturally understood the severity of this. Unless it was a cultivation technique purchased by the various manors themselves or by the military, or a weak cultivation technique purchased by the military, it was more likely that it would be spread for free. Zhu Tiandao thought for a moment and said, "It's just that the civilization academies won't allow it to be spread?" "That's right." Suyu nodded. Most of the civilization masters in the military are above the level of flying, so it doesn't matter whether it's spread or not. However, the Dragon Martial Academy and the Great Xia War Academy also have a portion of the civilization masters' inheritances, so they won't restrict them. Zhu Tiandao couldn't help but laugh. "You're restricting the 3 Great Xia civilized academies to death." Suyu smiled and didn't say anything else. Who asked the 3 great academies to keep sending out those hostile civilized masters? Of course, they had to target them. Then the Great Zhou Manor. Zhu Tiandao had a playful look on his face. "Don't restrict them." Suyu smiled and said, "Not for the time being. Come one by one. We haven't killed the enemies of the Great Xia Manor yet, so it's not worth it to provoke even stronger enemies. Although I feel that the source is there, we shouldn't be too hasty at this moment." He knew about the Great Zhou Manor, but he couldn't provoke too many enemies right now. He had to eat his meal one bite at a time. First, he had to nail those bastards from the Great Xia Manor who were targeting him to death. Zhu Tiandao was a little surprised. As for Suyu, he said again, "Manor head, there's another point. You can go to the other manors to discuss the authorization. The income is all from the Great Ming Manor. However, if the Yuan and Zhou families find trouble with me, I hope that manor head can withstand them." Zhu Tiandao was once again surprised. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1154. 1154 Chapter 276 Public Opinion 2. Suyu smiled and said, "To be honest, the divine aperture is a little dangerous after all, and there are also some uncertainties. The 10,000 literature classic has experienced many years, so everyone still has a high degree of trust in it. As for my new cultivation method, I'm afraid that the degree of trust isn't that high. If the 2 families were to stir up some trouble at this time, for example, if one of their cultivation apertures exploded and their Sea of Will was crippled, it might cause a lot of trouble. Then, at this point, I hope that Mansion Master and even the Darming King can speak up." Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, "That's for sure. After all, it's a large sum of income. The Darming Mansion will not sit idly by and do nothing. However, this cultivation technique, is there really no problem?" He was also worried that it would be troublesome if it was only suitable for Suyu. "No, there are already many people who have opened their divine apertures. Zhang Hao, Lin Yao, and the others had opened their divine apertures, including Xia Huyo. The first set of 36 divine apertures might have all been opened, but there were no problems. Therefore, Suyu felt that there should be no problems." Zhu Tiandao nodded. "Then I'll try it myself later. If there are no problems, then I'll start spreading it in the Great Ming Mansion first. It needs to be brewed for a period of time before it can be quickly spread to the various great manors in the human realm." "All right." Suyu nodded. This could be done. Zhu Tiandao smiled. "You can build up the momentum first. The winds of the future will come first and let the Great Xia Manor feel the pain. At the same time, you must quickly spread the benefits and importance of the basic script to the public." Suyu smiled. This was to his liking. Speaking up to this point, Suyu did not say anything more. He handed a jade talisman to Zhu Tiandao and smiled. "Manor head, then I'll have to trouble Daming Manor to do some publicity and promotion. No matter how good a cultivation method was, it still needed to be promoted. Without a strong background, even if your cultivation method was very strong, it might not be able to spread. The public didn't know, and the cultivators didn't trust you. So what if your cultivation method was strong? And the daming manor could play such a role. Therefore, they had to give the daming manor a commission. As for giving the quest realm, it was the same logic. The quest realm would help promote it. However, Suyu thought for a moment before asking, Manor Head, will the quest realm create any obstacles? After all, it's a sacred ground for human-level cultivators. After a few times, Suyu felt that the quest realm might not be friendly to the many divine inscriptions. From the quest realm, they would be able to see a thing or two after entering the Great Xia Civilization Academy. Zhu Tiandao didn't mind, don't worry about it. My father is the number 2 character at the quest realm. Right now, there might be some invincible opponents targeting us. Don't worry about it. A powerful cultivation technique is beneficial to the entire human realm. It will also be of great help to some of the invincible descendants. If some of the people in the quest realm dare to stop us, that would be a good thing. If the quest realm really stops us, it would be even better. I will go and talk to the War God Hall. The fighters don't care about this. He smiled and said, if we really spread it and it has an effect, the quest realm will slap themselves in the face. The reputation of this sacred land of civilized masters will be tarnished. Once it is tarnished, those neutral invincible opponents will stand up and find fault with us. At that time, you will still need to worry about it. Those neutral invincible opponents will make those guys vomit blood. Suyu understood. In other words, it would actually be quite good if some people in the quest stage really wanted to stop the spread. He hoped that they would be a little foolish. If he jumped out, he would be treated as a target in the end. Without mentioning this again, Suyu finally said, Manor Head, do you know the location of some of the essence openings? He told them about the 357 apertures that he had mastered. Then, he took out a puppet from his storage ring and told them about Wu Lan's discovery. Zhu Tiandao nodded slightly, you do have a lot of apertures. Wu Lan's words make sense. In fact, some people have guessed it before, but the apertures at these locations, to be honest, it's not easy to open them. If you open them wrongly, it'll be very troublesome. The apertures are all tested out one by one. Back then, many people died when opening the 100 acupoints. It was because they opened the wrong apertures. Later on, most of the acupoints were opened. There might still be acupoints on this axis, but almost no one used them, so no one was willing to try it. He glanced at Suyu, after thinking for a while, he said, how about this, don't be anxious. I'll get someone to try it. Those guys from the death row camp will try it. Whoever tests out these 3 acupoints will be absolved of the death penalty. If it explodes, then so be it. Don't test it out yourself. Our Daming Manor isn't like the Great Xia Manor, where everyone has been killed. We still have some prisoners on death row who are all locked up. Testing out cultivation techniques is a good thing. When Suyu heard this, he was also delighted. This was for the best. Then I'll have to trouble you, Manor Head. Zhu Tiandao waved his hand and said casually, it's a small matter. It's also for the sake of research. Then, I'll immediately make preparations here. There will be results in a few days. We'll start testing it out in Daming Manor first, and it will quickly spread to the human realm. Thank you, Manor Head. After a brief exchange with Zhu Tiandao, Suyu and Wenzhong left. Following that, Suyu began to busy himself with finding the essence aperture. Zhu Tiandao was experimenting while Suyu himself was also continuously opening the cultivation method to see if he could find a special aperture. If he still couldn't, Suyu wanted to try and see if he could exchange for some demonic god essence blood and use it to open the cultivation method. He had many cultivation methods now, but he had never used demon essence blood before. Among them, the blood essence of the primitive demon race and the primitive god race was the most precious. These two races were the most powerful, so it was very likely that the cultivation method or innate martial skill contained some special acupoints. Just as Su Yu was preparing everything, the matter of the basic text formula began to spread in the human realm. What is the basic formula? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1155. 1155 Chapter 276 Public Opinion 3. What was the difference between it and a common writing technique? How much benefit and help would it bring to people? These things needed people to popularize, and not everyone knew how precious the basic writing technique was. However, countless people only heard one sentence. Nowadays, even the kings created by the various manners don't have a complete basic writing technique. Just this sentence was enough. It was extremely precious. Everywhere, there was a rush of basic formulas. With this thing, civilized masters could quickly advance and save at least 20 years of time to enter Lingyun. And just when everyone was in a rush, a name appeared. Su Yu. Su Yu's Primordial Spirit Research Institute. The genius from the Great Xia Mansion had escaped from the Great Xia Mansion and was now rebuilding the Primordial Spirit Research Institute in the Great Ming Mansion. He was willing to reveal the foundation of Su Yu's previous strength, a basic formula called Primordial Spirit Formula, spreading the human realm. Opening the 72 divine apertures of the basic cultivation technique. A treasure. A treasure that was even more precious than a top-tier heaven-grade cultivation technique. It was a treasure that could change the entire domain of the human realm. Mountains and seas couldn't be seen. Soaring Cloud was the true mainstream powerhouse in the eyes of the public. The moment this news was released, it shocked everyone. Opening the 72 divine apertures. Very quickly, the envoys from the various large manors rushed towards Daming Manor. And at this moment, the requirements regarding the dissemination of cultivation techniques were spread out. It required a number of people from the various divine literature departments to be in the lead, Soaring Cloud, and at least 10 people. In addition, the Great Xia Manor's 3 major civilization academies were not allowed to spread the news, and they were not allowed to secretly learn it. The moment the news was released, it once again shook the entire area. Countless people's gazes turned towards the Great Xia Manor. According to the news that came out from Daming Manor, it was because the Great Xia Manor's major civilization academies still did not let go of Su Yu. They did not let go of the many divine literature departments. After Su Yu left, not only did they not restrain themselves, they even increased the intensity of their attacks. Among them, the 2 suns and moons who had just entered the manor were the first to bear the brunt. They were seen as the leaders of the suppression of the many divine languages. Yuan Qingdong of the Great Xia Civilization Academy and Zheng Yunhe of the 9 Heavens Civilization Academy. The news quickly spread because these 2 people were determined to destroy the many divine languages. As for Su Yu, he was tormented by the single divine languages and had no choice but to flee the Great Xia Manor. Now, a group of people had been killed, but these people still did not change and insisted on destroying the multi-god literature department. On the Great Xia Manor side, the Shanhai realm Chen Yong had been stripped of his position as the head of the library. The multi-god literature department's leader, Hong Tan, had no choice but to stay in seclusion, unable to fight back. The only research institute of the multi-god literature department, the Wentan Research Center, had announced that it was completely closed and would no longer do any research and development. This was because not only did the Great Xia Mansion and the Institute of Civilization not support any funds or manpower, they were also constantly suppressing the research center's living space. All sorts of news quickly spread out. The aftermath had only just dispersed. The single divine literature department of the Great Xia Mansion was already annoying to begin with. The Xia family had just used lightning-fast methods to suppress the other party, and in the blink of an eye, not only did the other party not change their stance, they even sent out 2 Sun-Moon realm experts. They forcefully suppressed Su Yu's faction. Once this news was out, the anger of the people rose once more. Before this, it was the anger of the people. This time, it was the anger of countless civilization master students. Great Xia Civilization Academy. The atmosphere was heavy. The sky was gloomy. In the top 100 arenas, no one had been ranked for a long time. It was meaningless. At this moment, students in groups of 2s and 3s were discussing something in low voices. B****, what's the point of not imparting the primordial spirit scripture to the civilized University of Great Xia? Even if we have money, we can't buy it. If this continues, the students from the other major universities will soon surpass us and even crush us. We can save 20 years to enter Lingyun. Once we enter the sky, we can quickly reach the peak. Moreover, many people can start cultivating from a young age. Hehe, it's over. If this goes on, in a few more decades. No, in a few more years, the civilized University of Great Xia will not be able to recruit a single person. There are still a few more months until the new students enter next semester. I think you should wait and see. It'll be strange if there are new students coming next semester. The students were all discussing. They were indignant, and angry. Others could learn, but we can't. It wasn't that Su Yu didn't want to teach, but he was afraid that he would make his enemy stronger and kill him instead. If it was before, these words would have sounded like scaremongering and bullsh**t. But now. This was the truth. It hadn't been long since the Divine One faction had sent so many people to kill Su Yu. Everyone still remembered it. Wasn't it normal for Su Yu to have such worries? The key was that the matter from last time had just calmed down. In the end, it was said that the new deputy prefect had once again suppressed Chen Yong and the others. He even said that he wanted to capture the traitor Su Yu during the cabinet elder meeting. This news also spread. Traitor? Was that a traitor? He was forced to leave by all of you. Now, he actually said that Su Yu was a traitor during the meeting of the elders. The genius student from before had now become a traitor. Su Yu, who had developed the dual Wu joint aperture technique, had just gone to Daming Manor not long ago. He had already launched the primordial spirit text technique. If he were to stay in the Great Xia Manor, he would definitely launch it as well. Damn it! Bastard! Someone gritted his teeth and said, I don't care. If the Great Xia Mansion is unable to learn it, I'll transfer schools. If this goes on, we won't be able to live well. We've already lost a lot of resources, and now, the Great Xia Civilization Academy doesn't have any advantage at all. Right, if this goes on, how are we going to become stronger? With our talent, there are people who are willing to accept us from other manors. The Daming Mansion isn't too far away from us. At most, we'll go to the Daming Mansion. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1156. 1156 Chapter 276 Public Opinion 4. Once these words were said, the surroundings fell silent for a moment. Very quickly, a researcher who was passing by berated, "What nonsense are you spouting? If you dare to spout nonsense again." The student who was speaking looked at the other party, he gritted his teeth and said, "What nonsense are you spouting? Can you still expel me from the academy? It's even better if you expel me. There are no restrictions on the civilian civilization masters. In the Great Xia Civilized Academy, there are no resources. There are no cultivation techniques. There are no fairness. If I were to produce some results, I would still be suppressed by others. At worst, I would just leave." The moment those words were said, the researcher's expression changed again and again. He didn't utter another word and left swiftly. If he were to continue speaking, he would incur the wrath of the students. If a large number of students were to withdraw from the academy and rebel, it would be a huge disaster. In the past, everyone thought of this place as the holy land of civilized teachers. But now, it was starting to stink. This cultivation technique had yet to be spread out. The effects had yet to be seen. If someone were to really rely on this cultivation technique and quickly become a soaring cloud, then the civilized teachers of the Great Xia Academy would become the laughingstock of everyone in the blink of an eye. The hearts of the people were somewhat scattered. Time and time again, at this moment, the hearts of the people of the Great Xia Civilization Academy were somewhat shaken. Should they stay or leave? It seemed that Manor Head One had not been in charge of matters recently, and the one who was in charge of the affairs of the academy was the newly arrived vice manor head of the Sun Moon State. However, the other party was the main culprit. It had nothing to do with them. However, when the matter was related to him, when it involved benefits, how could he not be concerned? It didn't matter who Yuan Qingdong suppressed, as long as it wasn't him. However, because of him, the Great Xia Mansion couldn't obtain any cultivation technique inheritance. This was a sin. And at this moment, someone suddenly said, "Good news, there's no need to change the mansion. I heard that Longwu and Zhanzhan University have obtained the authorization. The primordial spirit scripture can be taught in their university." What? D***, with a civilized higher education institution. In the end, the scripture can't be spread in our higher education institution. Instead, it can be spread in Zhan University. How F***king interesting. Cut the crap. I heard that Longwu and Great Xia's Zhan University are already expanding the civilized master faculty. Previously, it was just a small matter. Now, it's hard to say. Next semester, there might be a large number of new students pouring in. F***ck. Someone cursed in a low voice. Very soon, someone said in a low voice, "That's a good thing." Didn't someone want to go to the Great Ming Mansion before? That place is too far, after all. But to go to the other academies in the Great Xia Mansion, it's very close. It's not like we're leaving our hometown. Can we transfer in? It shouldn't be a big problem, right? As long as our academy releases people, there's no reason for them not to accept us. What if our academy doesn't release people? Nonsense, if he doesn't release people, then get the cultivation technique. Otherwise, in a few years, our top 100 rankings will be turned into dogs by others, and they have the nerve to say that we're from the civilized academy. Cultivating one's nature and cultivating one's divine aperture technique would also greatly increase one's strength. If someone were to cultivate one's nature and open dozens of divine apertures, putting everything else aside, one's willpower would be several times stronger than those who didn't cultivate the cultivation technique. How would they fight then? Your divine arts were exquisite, your willpower wasn't weak, and your physical body wasn't bad either. If someone didn't say anything, their willpower would be comparable to that of soaring in the sky, suppressing you. You wouldn't be able to perform at all. The top 100 students would probably be tortured to death by them. When they reached soaring in the sky, it would be even worse. They would quickly enter the 7th or 8th level of soaring in the sky. You had been stuck in soaring for decades, but you were still at the 3rd or 4th level of soaring in the sky. How would you fight then? The other party had entered Lingyun, yet you were still hovering in the air. How were you going to fight? The entire human realm was paying attention to this, and the 3 major academies of Great Xia were the focus of attention. What should they do? If they didn't teach this cultivation technique, the students would definitely be greatly dissatisfied. Who would be willing to recruit the new students next semester? Once the cultivation technique spread to other places, would the students of the Great Xia residence be able to endure it? Heart Cultivation Pavilion. In the meeting room of the Pavilion Elders, another meeting of the Pavilion Elders was held a few days later. Dead silence. This time, Chen Yong did not come at all. He said that he was in closed-door cultivation. Wan Tianxing did not appear either. He was also in closed-door cultivation. In the past few days, Yuan Qingdong was the one in charge of the daily affairs. At this moment, Yuan Qingdong's expression was slightly unsightly. He had actually been defeated by Su Yu, who was far away in the Great Ming Manor. What should he do? At this moment, everyone was in a panic. The students had no interest in learning. They only wanted to know if this cultivation technique was being spread in the academy. Once it was spread in other academies and the Great Xia Civilization Academy didn't have it, who would bear the responsibility? No one has anything to say. Yuan Qingdong looked at everyone, and his expression changed slightly. Also, many of you know Su Yu's God Aperture scripture. Is it true or false? In fact, he knew that it was true. If it wasn't true and caused such a huge ruckus, then Su Yu was just waiting to be targeted by all the civilized masters in the world. Using a fake to fool people, he was courting death. It's probably true. Someone said calmly, actually, Su Yu had already revealed it long ago. He opened his divine aperture, but at that time, he thought it was only the type with more than 10 divine apertures, so he didn't pay too much attention to it. Now, it's actually 72 divine apertures. That was too important. As for not spreading the news to the 3 great academies. A pavilion elder said faintly, actually, thinking about it, it makes sense. After all, he was chased out and forced away. If he doesn't take revenge and still gives benefits to others, then he's an idiot, not a saint. It's understandable, isn't it? Yuan Qingdong's gaze changed slightly as he looked at that person. The pavilion elder who spoke smiled and said, Yuan Mansion Master, this matter isn't easy for us to handle. Why don't you go and talk to Su Yu? Perhaps you can dispel his thoughts and persuade him. Yuan Qingdong said plainly, if you want to talk, it's the Great Xia Mansion who will do it. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1157. 1157 Chapter 276 Public Opinion 5. After saying that, he continued, moreover, this matter does not concern you or me. At our current level, it does not matter whether we cultivate or not. Before he could finish his sentence, someone said in a strange tone, that's right. What can be learned in the Yuan Mansion, what can be learned in the Yuan family? Some people, their families are not here, and they do not need to learn, so why should they care about this? Once these words were said, Yuan Qingdong looked coldly at He Qi. He Qi's face was full of smiles, he shrugged and said, what? I'm telling the truth. This matter has no effect on Yuan Mansion head. If it were me, I wouldn't care either. Unlike us, we have students, friends, and family all at the Great Xia Civilization Academy. You're not a local. Of course, you don't have to care. Yuan Qingdong said coldly, Pavilion Elder it's not my responsibility for Su Yu not to teach the Great Xia Institute of Civilization, right? He Qi smiled and said, no, of course not. However, the people outside were spouting nonsense and insisted that it was the head of Yuan Mansion's responsibility. Because you said he was a traitor. Su Yu was unhappy. He originally planned to let bygones be bygones and teach it at the Great Xia Mansion. Now, he's not going to teach it anymore. Yuan Qingdong frowned and said, this matter has already been decided last time. Su Yu was not a traitor. This was also because Feng Qi's identity had been concealed, resulting in such a misunderstanding. Also, the matter at the cabinet elder meeting had actually been spread. Everyone. This isn't appropriate, right? He Qi smiled and did not care. He shrugged and said, then that's it. I'll go and ask Su Yu for a favor later. Don't ban them all. I have a good relationship with his teacher. He didn't care about that. At worst, he could just go and look for Qin Yong or Su Yu. It wasn't a big deal. It was an official authorization. It was definitely an official authorization. As for you guys stealing cultivation techniques, that was your business. Stealing cultivation techniques was a big crime. Of course, you could steal cultivation techniques from others today. Tomorrow, others could steal cultivation techniques from you. If you spread it around, it might even happen in a few days, the Xia family's heaven-splitting blade would spread to the whole world. At that time, the Xia family would have nothing to say, and they would not be able to find fault with it. Some unbeatable secrets that could not be spread might not be completely unknown. Just spread it. Yuan Qingdong frowned and looked at Xia Chongqing. Chongqing manor head, what does the Xia family think? Xia Chongqing looked at him and then at the others. After a long while, he said, let's talk first. If we can't come to an agreement, then we'll talk. First, find someone to talk to Daming Prefecture and Su Yu. If they couldn't come to an agreement, then they would think of a way. Yuan Qingdong was silent. After a while, he said, after everyone goes back, calm the students down. Everyone will learn the cultivation technique. He Chi smiled and said, what if they don't learn it? Isn't that lying and cheating? Yuan Qingdong said coldly, if they can't learn it, there are ways. If they can't, they can still learn it even if they change the name of the Great Xia Civilization Academy. Could it be that Su Yu can continue to add all kinds of conditions? Isn't he afraid of being laughed at by the world? At this moment, all the pavilion elders looked at him. He Chi laughed, head of the Yuan mansion, you are not a member of the Great Xia Institute of Civilization. Do you understand what the words, Great Xia Institute of Civilization mean? This is the glory of our Great Xia Institute of Civilization civilized masters. This is our inheritance. This is the sacred place of generations of Great Xia's civilized masters. Changing the name. He Chi laughed, that's really simple. That's true. To head of the Yuan mansion, it's just a small matter. Changing the name is too simple. However, head of the Yuan mansion, I'm afraid you don't understand. Once this name is changed, the Great Xia Institute of Civilization will probably be completely disbanded. With a sneer, He Chi stood up and walked away, ignorant. And boring. It's not your family's territory. Just do whatever you want. I've already said that if you're not a local, how would you care about the development of the institute? Outsiders. Know nothing. You. Just as Yuan Qingdong was about to fly into a rage, the elders stood up one by one, including Xia Chongqing. They also frowned slightly and said, head of the Yuan mansion, it's best that you don't mention the matter of changing the name. The Xia family will not agree to it. Even those civilized masters who have gone out will not agree to it. What a joke. Change the name. You think too simply. This is the glory of the Great Xia Mansion, and this is the spiritual holy land of the civilized masters of the Great Xia Mansion. If you change the name. Even if you change it, if Su Yu is still not allowed to spread it, it will only treat the symptoms and not the root of the problem. Instead, it will become a huge joke. Elder Qi also said as he walked, with the attitude of the head of the Yuan mansion, there is no way to continue the discussion. According to our thoughts, we should treat the multiple divine languages department with kindness at this moment. We should even build another divine languages department to give Qin Yong some support. We should have just competed properly. In the end, the head of Yuanfu didn't even mention it, so there's no need for the meeting to continue. Let's go. The cultivation technique has just been passed down, so it won't have much of an impact right now. Once its influence grows. The Great Xia Civilization Academy, which has been passed down for more than 300 years, might have to be disbanded. Someone sighed, messing around. At this point, how could they face it head-on? Someone laughed and said, actually, it's not that there's no way to solve it. If we introduce a similar cultivation technique, everything will be solved. But once there's no similar cultivation technique that can replace it, everyone, the big trouble is behind us. If there was a cultivation technique of the same level that could be replaced, then that wouldn't be a problem. The key was there? What the f***ck? When a cultivation technique couldn't be replaced, it would be an absolute monopoly. If you didn't learn it, you would be left behind. If you were left behind, you would have to suffer a beating. The Xia family wouldn't allow this to happen, and neither would the three great academies. In the future, some of the pavilion elders who were in seclusion, and even those who were on the battlefield of the heavens, might return one after another. Some of the pavilion elders from the neutral faculty, who were not in charge, and even Ling Yun, who was in the air, would appear very soon. If they did not come to an agreement, this matter would not pass. In the end, it was even possible that the three major academies would fall apart. The traitor Su Yu, I'm afraid that it would be difficult for him to agree to the negotiations of the great Xia manor, who asked him to be a traitor. Before he left, the pavilion elder said a few words in a sarcastic manner. He had already left, and Chen Yong had been staying in the library without moving. Yet, you came and insisted on torturing them and killing Yu Hong and the others. Su Yu probably felt that the great Xia manor did not have any enemies left, but now, you came to their doorstep. It would be strange if they did not target you. Instead, they caused us to suffer in the process. Yuan Qingdong did not say a word and allowed these people to leave. The elders' meeting ended on bad terms. Wan Tianxing did not show up because he wanted him to be the scapegoat. Yuan Qingdong's eyes were dark. These people had really thrown all the blame on him. He did not say anything. The Xia family would not just ignore this matter. The prerequisite was, not to implicate him. What he needed to guard against was not Su Yu, but the Xia family using them as a shield. Seeking stage. At this moment, he thought of seeking stage. Perhaps he could only let seeking stage put pressure on the Daming Manor, but Zhu Tiandao from the Daming Manor, he had a headache. It was a huge problem. P.S. Seeking monthly votes. Those who have monthly votes, please vote. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1158. 1158 Chapter 277 Coercion 1. In Daming Manor, Su Yu didn't care about that. At this moment, he had handed the matter over to Zhu Tiandao and didn't bother about it anymore. Zhu Tiandao had taken the benefits and gained fame and fortune, so some matters naturally had to be handled by him. Moreover, Su Yu's strength was weak and his status was low, so there were some matters that he couldn't get involved in. And at this time, Daming Manor was also very lively recently. The news of the primordial spirit scripture had spread. At this moment, the students could already begin to exchange for the upper half of the God Aperture technique. 50 merit points. Too cheap. At this moment, almost every student in the Daming Manor had a copy. Not only so, almost every teacher had also exchanged for a copy of the upper half of the cultivation technique. Within a day, the exchange for the upper half of the cultivation technique had begun. By night time, the exchange had reached close to 10,000 copies. 500,000 contribution points. According to the distribution, Su Yu could get 40% of the contribution points, which was 200,000 contribution points. Of course, the reason why it was so popular now was because of the cultivation technique book. In the next few years, these people would only need to exchange for the second half of the book, and the first half of the book would be sufficient once. It wasn't just the students of Civilization Academy. There were also quite a number of people from Zhanjing Academy who were shouting that they would open the exchange for Zhanjing Academy. They wanted to learn it as well. Even if they didn't learn it, it would be good to take a look. It was a cultivation technique that could be cultivated by cultivating one's character. If a warrior learned it, it might allow their willpower to increase rapidly. For some warriors, even if they were in the mountains and seas, their willpower might not even manifest. At this moment, learning it might also be helpful. It would be very beneficial for them if their willpower became stronger. Previously, their willpower hadn't manifested. Even if they knew how to cultivate the 10,000 literature classic, it would be useless. They wouldn't be able to open their minds. But now, they might be able to open their minds. Suyu had actually forgotten one point about this cultivation technique. It might be able to promote the dual cultivation of many fighters. In the past, he did not cultivate his willpower because it was more difficult to fly. Now, if he cultivated his nature and opened his divine aperture, his willpower would also increase. The purpose of opening his divine aperture was to allow his willpower to increase rapidly. As for entering the 9th level of the soaring sky realm or even Ling Yun in the later stages, that was only because Zhang Hao said this. The purpose of the divine aperture was to absorb more willpower to speed up the advancement. The great Ming mansion was bustling with noise and excitement. The storyteller had something to do once again. In the past few days, the storytellers from the various restaurants had never left Su Yu's name. In a restaurant in the capital city. The storyteller. He said loudly, this Su Yu came to the capital city, and as expected, he did something shocking in just a few days. Everyone knows this basic text. Only the invincible descendants can cultivate it, and not all invincible descendants have it. Great Xia's Wang Cheng, right? He has one basic text and 18 God-opening apertures. It's a precious treasure inheritance. Males don't pass it down to females, and lineal descendants don't pass it down to concubines. Great Xia's Wang Cheng, right? He also has one basic formula and 24 God-opening apertures. The Zhu family's precious treasure, other than the Zhu family members, will not pass it down to anyone else. And now that Su Yu is spreading this cultivation technique, it's very dangerous. Not only did he offend a group of invincible people, he also made those kings' descendants lose their advantage. Who knows, they might even be suppressed by others. Not only that, the Myriad Clan sect and the Myriad Clan knew about Su Yu's talent, and they might even continue to assassinate Su Yu. It's not that some things can't be passed down, it's just that they can't. Su Yu might be in danger now. I wonder if the Daming Manor can protect him. The storyteller said loudly, and someone questioned, the Myriad Clan is so daring to enter the city and kill people? That's hard to say. The storyteller laughed loudly, so what if they enter the city to assassinate people? It's not just the Myriad Clan. Next, there might even be people on their side who want to kill Su Yu, even if I don't say it, everyone knows who it is. Su Yu is also very daring. He really didn't pass down those people. Don't you know how daring those people are? Are you talking about the Great Xia Manor's single divine prose sect? That bold? Weren't many of them killed last time? The storyteller smiled and said, they did kill many, but a few more suns and moons came and continued to find trouble. I think that sooner or later, Su Yu will be taught. If they don't teach him, will those people let him off? That detestable. That's exactly how detestable he is. The storyteller sighed and said, sometimes, the so-called people on our side are even more terrifying. I also heard that once the primordial spirit scripture was released, the world would be shaken. The myriad literature scripture might be abolished. Once it was abolished, it would be in big trouble. In the past, the myriad literature scripture was a chicken that laid golden eggs. Now that this chicken was killed, it would cost tens of millions of merit points a year. Su Yu was cutting off people's source of income. His primordial spirit scripture was too cheap. Not only did it cut off the source of income for the owner of the myriad literature scripture, it even cut off many sources of income for the various manors and those in the search realm. It's a pity that this Su Yu doesn't have long to live. The moment these words left his mouth, someone berated, nonsense. The quest realm is a holy land. Why would he kill a genius researcher just for a little merit? Didn't anyone hear about the primordial spirit scripture? A civilized master entering Ling Yun saved 20 years of time and contributed greatly to the human race. Why would the Quest realm do such a thing? The storyteller shook his head. You only know one thing and not the other. The Seeker realm doesn't mean that it's an immortal realm. Unrivaled kings were all on the battlefield of the heavens. The Seeker realm was controlled by some aristocratic families that were born in the Seeker realm. Many of them were enemies with the multi-god literature faction. I think Su Yu is in danger. Our Dharming king is extremely powerful and is one of the best in the Seeker realm. How can we be afraid of them? If we are afraid, then we are not afraid. It is just troublesome. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1159. 1159 Chapter 277 Coercion 2. The storyteller smiled and said, the great Ming king has to deal with those invincible gods and demons at the front line. How can he stay in the Quest realm every day? Even if he stays, he might not know what's going on down there. He might not care about it. Even if he does, it might not be useful. The storyteller kept on talking and lamenting. He said that Su Yu's life was coming to an end. At the same time, people were talking everywhere, not just in the Tiandu mansion. On the third floor of the restaurant. In a large private room, a few people were drinking wine and eating food. Listening to the noise below, a middle-aged man in the middle said calmly, Old Jew, did you get someone to spread the word? It makes people anxious. There's no need for that. Zhu Tiandao was also present during the banquet, but he was not the main seat. Hearing this, he chuckled and said, Old brother Qin, why did I get someone to spread the news? Can I harm my own father? There was indeed something wrong with the Seeker boundary recently. Who knows what happened? In the past, it was fine if they didn't ask, but now they're still torturing it. That yuan something, torturing it for a while, what are they doing? As he said this, Zhu Tiandao looked at the few people at the banquet, he smiled and said, I say, brothers, you rushed over here in a hurry. You've seen the cultivation technique, and it's genuine. What else is there to say? Are you going to teach it or not? If not, don't waste my time. The middle-aged man in the middle looked at him and drank a cup of wine. He said indifferently, teach it. The great Qin Manor doesn't care about this nonsense. Civilized masters, you civilized masters have too much shit to do. Other than passing on cultivation techniques, I want to meet Su Yu. I heard that he has the highest version of the aperture synthesis technique. He can even fuse the Thousand Mountain technique. I want to talk to him about this and pass it on to the Great Qin Manor. The Great Qin Manor was the heaven of warriors. He needed this highest version of cultivation technique. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, he really has this. It's amazing. Su Yu opened hundreds of apertures and could fuse them with ease. In an instant, he reached the 9th level of the 10,000 stones realm. There were also people from the great Xia mansion who had cultivated the Thousand Mountain secret art. That brat had also reached the 9th level of the 10,000 stone realm. His combat strength was unparalleled. There were also a few people like that brat from the Xia family who had also cultivated it. Now that he has also reached the 9th level of the 10,000 stone realm, it is not difficult for him to close his apertures with the heaven-splitting blade. As he said that, Zhu Tiandao said with a smile, Old brother Qin, Su Yu is willing to pass it on. However, back then, he had reached an agreement with the Xia family that this thing would be kept in the Xia family. Su Yu would not spread it around so that the Xia family would not feel that it is inappropriate. Isn't his father still in the demon suppression army? Qin Zhen looked at him and said calmly, don't talk to me about this. No matter how stupid the Xia family is, they wouldn't kill Su Long to threaten Su Yu. Don't talk to me about this. Name your price. It was all about money. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, it's not about money, how about this? don't take the money. That kid Suyu likes to do research. As for the great Qin residents, they don't lack the things he needs. They will provide tens of thousands of drops of demon essence blood from the sky to the mountains and seas. It's a small matter. Qin Zhen looked at him silently. There was no pressure or threat. He just looked on. After a long while, Zhu Tiandao coughed and said, all right. Tens of thousands of drops is too much. A few thousand drops is enough, right? Qin Zhen said calmly, let Suyu negotiate. You're asking for too much. The things don't belong to you. Now, you can consider me as your agent. Zhu Tiandao said cheerfully, in the past, you had to look for the Xia family. Now, you can look for me. Suyu has authorized me to act as his agent. Not only that, Suyu has also been developing the fusion technique recently. Zhu Tiandao said with a sigh, amazing. This kid dares to think of anything. Once this fusion technique is released, it'll be amazing. The sky will change. Of course, I'm afraid that it's still too early. But there's a cultivation technique that's fast. He looked at Qin Zhen and said with a smile, there's nothing special about a basic origin technique derived from the fusion technique. There are 36 openings in the fusion technique, and there are more than 27 overlaps with that origin technique. Zhu Tiandao said with a smile, this is the yellow grade version. Suyu and the others are still developing and deducing the mystic grade version. Once the mystic grade version is released, it might directly cover the 36 openings. This way. TSK, amazing. Qin Zhen did not say anything. He glanced at the others and suddenly said, other than Suyu, are all the other civilized masters useless? Why hasn't anyone deduced these cultivation methods all these years? Qin Zhen did not wait for them to speak, he said coldly, let's not talk about the warriors. Most of the warriors are fighting on the front lines. I have to fight and research cultivation methods. I also have to spend a lot of time deducing cultivation methods. What exactly do you civilized masters do? Every year, the major civilized academies spend a lot of money. The fighters on the front lines live frugally and provide a lot of resources to civilized masters. Every year, you provide a small number of civilized masters to the front lines, but in the end, you can't even come up with a fart. How many civilized masters were there on the front lines? In the vast Great Xia Manor, civilized masters were considered to be the most active. There were less than 10,000 civilized masters in the army right now, only a few thousand. As for the combatants, there were over 1 million of them. It was a ratio of a few hundred to one. Qin Zhen harumphed and said, if we don't do what we're supposed to do, there's nothing else to do. According to what I think, if we don't produce any results, we might as well ban all of the great Xia academies, wasting time and money and wasting a group of talents. Old Qin, what you're saying? Someone laughed and said, it has nothing to do with us. We still have quite a few results, alchemy, talisman making, beast taming. We've all had quite a few results. Great Qin's iron wing guards have swept across the 4 corners of the world, conquering the heavens. If you're honest, without the beast tamers among civilized masters, how could you be so powerful? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1160. 1160 Chapter 277 Coercion 3. That's right, old Qin, don't take all the civilized masters in one sentence. The pills and divine talismans that you warriors eat, did they all appear out of thin air? The few of them wanted to attack him, but Qin Zhen didn't care. He said lightly, all right, let's not talk about this. Back then, there were many experts from the divine literature department. When we fought on the front lines, we often saw their shadows. Now, there are fewer and fewer civilized masters who can fight head-on the front lines. There aren't many people from the Divine Literature Department who can go to the front lines. Once they go up, their combat strength will only be so. If this continues, the civilized masters will be completely reduced to the support department. Someone said helplessly, "We know about this, but old Qin, don't pretend to be ignorant." As soon as an expert from the multiple divine languages faction went to the front lines, they were targeted. The decline of these years was not entirely caused by the single divine languages faction. Do you agree with this? Qinjin coldly laughed, "I know. However, there's no need to be cowardly. If gods and devils wanted to kill experts from the multiple divine languages faction, they would suffer heavy losses every time. They would just have to expend a lot of energy. They would train more civilized experts from the multiple divine languages faction and go to the heavenly battlefield to fish. Every time they fish, they would be able to catch a big fish. Our great Qin Manor has used the civilized experts from the multiple divine languages faction to fish up several Sun-Moon realm experts." Everyone was speechless. "Nonsense, your great Qin Manor is a bunch of lunatics who are not afraid of death. If you really want most of the civilized experts of the many divine languages to go fishing, why don't you take a look? Will the people of the many divine languages agree to it? It was not bad to fish for a big fish, but many geniuses of the divine languages had died. Your great Qin Manor's many divine languages were probably played to death by your own people. You really can't blame others for this." Zhu Tiandao wasn't interested in these things and smiled, "This has nothing to do with me. Everyone, let's not talk about this. Let me ask, which clan is in charge of the Quest realm now? What the hell? Why are Yuan Qingdong and the others sent to the Great Xia Manor? Old Zhu, you're really a salted fish. You don't even care about this matter." Someone laughed and said, "Now it's the 8 families that are discussing and voting. The Zhou family, Yuan family, Zheng family. These families are all in charge together. Don't tell me you don't even know who the realm master is." "I really don't know." Zhu Tiandao laughed and said, "I can't be bothered to meddle in other people's business. Those who seek for a realm master can play with them themselves. I'm in charge of my daming mansion. Who asked my brother to die early? Otherwise, my brother would be in charge of the daming mansion while I seek for a realm master to become a realm master. But isn't there no one in the old Zhu family now? You guys are really free, you can't just let your son go. At least he can take a seat. Now, he doesn't care about anything." The few of them teased, very quickly, they said, "On the side of the Great Xia Manor, we are all people who understand the origin of the many divine literature department. There are a few families that don't want the many divine literature department to rise again. It's certain that they will suppress it over there. This matter is hard to say." Zhu Tiandao scoffed, "What is there to say? It is just a thought to quench one's thirst by drinking poison. No matter what, we must first suppress the multi-divine literature department so that we do not anger the powerful clans of the gods and demons. Isn't this what we want to do?" Zhu Tiandao said disapprovingly, "Relying on suppressing our own side to obtain the short-term peace of the gods and demons, there is not much meaning. Let's make a ruckus. You have all seen the ruckus until now. The hearts of the people are in turmoil." Hearing this, Qinjin also frowned. He said, "I've also heard of the thoughts of those few people. Sacrificing a portion of their people to buy some time for the human race, but this policy, to be honest, if we really want to suppress the many divine languages faction in an instant, then forget it. Don't make a ruckus so loud that everyone knows about it." In the end, it turned out to be good. If they couldn't suppress it, then it would be their own trash. If they make a ruckus so loud that everyone knows about it, I think there will be a big problem sooner or later. The great Qin residents rarely meddled in these matters, and they did not interfere. The great Qin residents did not agree with the policies of some people, but they could not be bothered to oppose them. If you had the ability, you could instantly suppress the other party. Just like back then, when the multi-divine literature department had easily suppressed you, no one had said anything. The main point was that you did not have the ability to do so, causing things to become even worse. It had even affected the entire human realm. At this point, it was no longer their business. If this went on, the human realm would become chaotic. Qin Zhen said a few words and quickly said, "The Great Qin Manor will not interfere, but if this goes on, it will definitely affect the front lines. The battle at the rear is already a life-and-death battle, how can the front lines remain stable?" Qin Zhen looked at the others, "Everyone, do as you see fit. Right now, the Great Qin Manor does not have control over anyone else, but just don't give us any more trouble. The Great Qin Army controls everything, and all experts are soldiers. If they do not obey military orders, they will all be killed. The few of you who are in the Seeker realm can also pass on a message. Help me pass on my attitude, and don't force me to purge a group of people in the Great Qin Manor." The few of them didn't say anything. The Great Qin Manor, actually, not many people in the Seeker realm were involved. As they spoke, someone laughed from outside the door and said, "Everyone, am I late?" A moment later, Lord Xiahou entered. He laughed, "I was planning to come earlier, but I was delayed by a small matter." Sorry, old Qin, old Zhu, you're all here." Zhu Tiandao looked at him with a smile, "Waiter, you came quite quickly. I thought you wouldn't be able to make it." Lord Xiahou glanced at him, "Old Zhu, don't look for trouble." Okay. "Waiter, I won't call your name in the future. Your father named it, not us." Lord Xiahou snorted and sat down. Qin Zhen asked directly, "When will Longwu become a Taoist?" "I'm not sure. Soon." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1161. 1161 Chapter 277 Coercion 4. Qin Zhen thought for a moment and said, "If Martial Dragon attained Tao, my father would definitely make a move, but, you also know the situation. My father has many people staring at him. If he makes a move, he can only be said to be holding him back a little. That's enough." Lord Xiahou sighed and said, "It's difficult, troublesome. There are too many people staring at Martial Dragon. Damn it, Zhou Patian, Zhou Polong, and the others are also coming soon. They are all staring at my family's Martial Dragon, so there's no way to say it." Qin Zhen said calmly, "Longwu is too talented, and he's a staunch iron-blooded sect. If it were me, I would also be staring at Xiao Longwu, and not Zhou Polong and the others. It was that simple. Xiao Longwu was too iron-blooded. He had killed too many people. He had attained the Tao, and it was possible that he would often start an invincible battle. Back then, Xiao Longwu led the Demon Suppression Army and killed countless people. In the heavenly battlefield, he had stirred up bloody storms time and time again. Back then, when the Demon Suppression Army was fighting, they had to replenish their troops almost once a year, and every battle was fought to the end, not a single blade of grass was left. Based on this, if nothing went wrong, Xiao Longwu's attainment of the Tao would be blocked by many unrivaled experts. Zhou Polong and the others were not in a hurry. If they had followed Xiao Longwu to attain the Tao at that time, perhaps no one would have bothered with them. There were many people who had such thoughts now. Xiao Longwu was going to be a target. An extremely determined Iron Blood sect would definitely be blocked by 10,000 races if they were to witness the Tao. Some unrivaled races might even make a move this time even if they did not make a move previously. Some of them even thought of how they should address Xiao Long after he attained the Tao, the Blood Butcher King. It was just a blood butcher. Who else would they stop if they did not stop him? Lord Xiahou sighed. That's right. They are all staring at Long Wu. Damn it, those bastards. We can't afford to offend them now. If others witness the Tao, there is a high chance that a few invincible Tao protectors will be sent. I don't think that a few dozen invincible Dao protectors won't do for our Long Wu. How can we offend all of them? Su Yu doesn't understand. Old Zhu, you still don't understand. Why are you fanning the flames from behind? Zhu Tiandao said aggrievedly, it's nothing. I even explained it to your Xia family, but there's nothing I can do. He's a young man, and those families have always been disgusted by him. How can he not be popular? With a snort, Lord Xiaoho did not say anything more. He quickly said, since all of you are here, I can't be bothered to run away from all of you. The martial arts of the dragon is about to reach the Dao. When the time comes, everyone, please lend a hand. If the martial arts of the dragon really dies, my father won't be able to stand the stimulation either. Qin Zhen interrupted, the Qin family is fine. As for the others, we can't force them. Lord Xiaoho curled his lips. I'm curious. Your Qin Zhen isn't a good person either. He's about to attain the Dao. Why isn't anyone watching you? Qin Zhen smiled and said, then we have to thank Long Wu. Waiter, don't tell me that Long Wu really wants to attain the Dao. We'll just make do with it. If we follow him, we might be able to succeed in attaining the Dao this time. Scram. Qin Zhen smiled and said, to be honest, I don't think Long Wu has a high chance of surviving. Why don't we just become a target? Your Xia family can do whatever they want. Don't you feel aggrieved? If you want to kill, then kill. Go to hell. Lord Xiaoho said angrily, kill my ass. At least let them help us out. Whether Long Wu succeeds or fails, at least my old man doesn't have any regrets. If we don't give it a try, we'll really let him die. Even the old man isn't willing. Then we might as well not do it. Qin Zhen smiled and said, if he doesn't do it, then his strength isn't weak now. Long Wu isn't willing. Lord Xiaoho sighed and said, do you think I haven't tried to persuade him? If it doesn't work, then just give up. If it really doesn't work, then go to the small world to do it. Don't. Qin Zhen directly interrupted, then it's better not to do it. Going to the small world to do it, the success rate is high, but it's bound to that small world, so his strength won't be too strong. For a person like Long Wu, if you let him be bound to a weak world, he'll only have that strength for his entire life, and he'll be at the bottom of the invincible. It's better to let him die in battle. Lord Xiaoho was helpless. That's right, that's why he had no choice. After drinking a glass of wine, he couldn't be bothered to say anything more. He looked at Zhu Tiandao and said, cut the crap. The cultivation technique still has to be passed down. If you don't pass it down, the civilized masters of the great Xia mansion will really rebel. Name your conditions. Zhu Tiandao chuckled and said, what conditions? It's not my cultivation technique, so you won't pass it down. You must have instigated it. Bullsh *T. Zhu Tiandao laughed and said, why are you in such a hurry? Let the public opinion explode first and prepare for it. Think of a way to make Yuan Qingdong and the others take the blame. Master Xiaoho frowned and said, I think so too. The key is that we haven't reached an agreement with those few families yet. He had a headache and said, at the very least, we have to wait until we've reached an agreement. Let those invincible families appear. No matter what, we have to help Long Wu stop those invincible families. To be honest, after enduring for so many years, we don't care about enduring for 2 more years. At this time, you want us to give up on Long Wu. I'm not willing. What does Xiao Long Wu say? Lord Xiaoho said in a bad mood, what does he know? That's his character. According to his thoughts, it's not a loss for him to risk his life for an invincible family. It's not a loss for him, but once he dies, he doesn't even think about whether the morale of the great Xia army will collapse. After saying that, he continued, with Long Wuzhen dead, I'm afraid the great Xia manor will no longer be guarding the front line. In the future, you guys can play by yourselves. I don't know what those bastards are thinking. Zhu Tiandao laughed, who knows? Perhaps they think that the dead Xia Longwu is better. With Xia Longwu dead, there might be fewer big battles. Lord Xiaohe was speechless. That was true. Depressed. This matter was hard to say. There was nothing to regret. Xia Longwu did not kill in all directions and was not that strong. But now, when he was young, he had killed too many people and his attitude was too cold-blooded. If you said that he had changed, no one would believe you. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1162. 1162 Chapter 277 Coercion 5. Qin Zhen said again, the great Xia Manor didn't discover the invincible relic. Discover my ass. Lord Xiaohe scolded again, if they found it, there's no need to be like this. What about the relic that Su Yu inherited? Lord Xiaohe shook his head and said, don't say that they didn't find it. If they found Long Wu's character. Old Qin, do you think he would go to the relic to verify his Dao? He spent so much effort for this fellow, yet this fellow still doesn't appreciate his kindness. Forget it, let's not talk about it. I'll go talk to Su Yu myself later. As Lord Xiaohe spoke, he glanced at Zhu Tiandao and said unhappily, stop causing trouble for me. You can't wait to stir up trouble and watch the show. Let me tell you, stop fanning the flames. You're always up to no good. Zhu Tiandao said helplessly, you're right. Waiter, you have to speak with your conscience. Back then, when Su Yu took out the acupoint fusion technique and you came to extort me, I didn't say anything either, right? Lord Xiaohe's heart was tired. You bastard, now you're showing off. Zhu Tiandao yawned and said, all right, stop pretending. Su Yu's target isn't your Xia family. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Xia family can still take advantage of it. Yuan Qingdong and the others have caused big trouble, so it's a good thing for you to help clean up the mess. Won't it be over if you force King de Yuan to promise to take action? Zhu Tiandao said disdainfully, you're still pretending to be wronged. Who knows how happy you'll be in your heart? It's not good for the Xia family to help. You, Su Yu, will be the knife, and it's even a free knife. How good is that? I've long seen through you. Master Xiaohe's face was stern. After a while, he bared his teeth and smiled. What are you saying? Since when have I used Su Yu as a knife? Su Yu had clearly wanted to be the knife himself. Stop selling yourself short. Zhu Tiandao chuckled and said, actually, it's a good thing. My Zhu family has helped you guys share a lot of pressure. It's fine if you don't thank me, but why are you still pretending to be pitiful? My father will help. Xia Longwu is still alive, it's actually quite interesting. Ha ha ha, I knew that Brother Zhu isn't an ordinary person. We're family, so there's no need to talk about the two families. Master Xiaohe laughed and raised his cup. Have a drink. Brother Zhu is a straightforward person. It's a small matter. Our Xia and Zhu families are the best neighbors. The others were speechless and shook their heads. This fatty Xia's speed of changing his face was unusually fast. After eating and drinking, Master Xiaohe very quickly laughed and said, I feel that the pressure is not great enough now. Why don't old Zhu find someone to impersonate the members of the Yuan and Zhou families, assassinate Su Yu, and then expose it to give the two families some pressure? *CK your grandpa. Zhu Tiandao cursed in his heart and couldn't be bothered with him. Lord Xiaohe laughed and said, forget it, there's no need to impersonate him. If it doesn't work, I'll drag Su Yu out for a walk. Who knows, someone might really want to kill him. My requirements aren't high, so I'll just grab a few more things and use the opportunity to force some guys to make a move, regardless of whether he's sincere or not, it's fine as long as he can stop an invincible person. If he can't, then he'll naturally have to settle the score later. As he spoke, he shook his head. It's hard to deal with. If Suyu appeared after attaining the Tao of Dragon Martial Arts, regardless of whether the Dragon Martial Arts succeeded or failed, it wouldn't be as hard to deal with as it is now. It wouldn't be your damning manners' turn to take advantage of it. Zhu Tiandao chuckled and didn't refute. Xia Long attaining the Tao of Dragon Martial Arts was the Xia family's neck. It was inevitable that the Xia family would be hard to deal with now. He didn't care about this. This matter was not his fault. No one could blame him. Xia Longwu's personality was too rigid, and he had killed too many people. It was difficult to achieve the Tao, so he should have been prepared. The few people beside him did not say much. Qin Jin drank a glass of wine. After a long while, he sighed. Actually, in the end, it's still not enough to unite the people. The warring faction, the peace faction, and even the surrender faction cannot determine the winner. It was that simple. Lord Xiaoho was also helpless. That's right. Sometimes, I wish that the great Qin King could succeed. If I take one more step forward, I don't want to go any further. If I can reach the level of the two old fellows from the primordial demon race and primordial divine race, it will be enough. The human race will be at peace. Qin Jin shook his head. Difficult. If it were really that simple, I would have succeeded long ago. Whether it's my father, the great Zhou King, or the great Xia King. They seem close, but in fact, the gap is still far. Zhu Tiandao said faintly, "Why didn't you say anything about my father?" "My father actually has hope too." The few of them glanced at him. "Your father? If your father could take another step forward, then the great Qin King and the others might as well commit suicide. Where did your father get his ability from?" Zhu Tiandao snorted. What kind of look was that? "The few of you, if you are authorized to do so, your merits will be doubled." He was so arrogant. As for the great Xia mansion, he would let them discuss it with Suyu. He was too lazy to get involved. This matter would depend on Suyu's own thoughts. At the same time, in the laboratory, Wu Lan asked curiously, "Suyu, are you really not going to teach the great Xia mansion?" "Not the great Xia mansion, but the three great universities." Suyu corrected her. "Then, forget it, it's up to you." Wu Lan could not be bothered with it and continued to work on her own. Suyu couldn't help but laugh. "Your Wu family can learn." Oh. Wu Lan didn't care too much. She knew how to do it. Besides, her sister and the others didn't need to learn, so it didn't matter whether she passed it on or not. Suyu was speechless and couldn't be bothered to say anything more. Enlightenment was the key. He had to quickly become enlightened and fly into the sky. As his fame increased, the pressure on him also increased. Maybe I should pay a visit to the Bai family, and see if there are any unexpected discoveries. Suyu muttered in his heart. He did not know whether the Bai family would welcome him or not. It was not necessarily a good thing to go rashly. They might not be willing to go on their own. As for the great Xia manor, he would wait and see. This time, he might not be able to deal with that Yuan Qingdong. However, that Shan Xiong had entered the Great Xia Institute of Civilization for Shan Xiong. Then he would let them go and play by themselves. Perhaps I can take the opportunity to kill him. Suyu curled his lips. He was very arrogant to challenge the multiple divine runes department to soar into the sky everywhere. He must have never experienced social beatings before. He had forced a few large manors to shut down the multiple divine runes department, and face-smacking multiple divine runes department, he was extremely arrogant. I have to fly into the sky as soon as possible. Suyu was also a little anxious. He was still short of 3 apertures. Even if he found them, he might not be able to get what he wanted. He still could not waste too much time on this. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1163. 1163 Chapter 278 Beating the Bull Through the Air 1. Just as Su Yu was about to leave, when Zhong shouted from downstairs, "Junior brother Su, someone is looking for you." "Who is it?" "I don't know him." Outside the door, when Zhong glanced at Lord Xiaoho. Actually, he knew him, but he just didn't know him now. If he knew him, wouldn't he have to bow and let him in? It was normal for people from the Daming Manor not to know Lord Xia from the Great Xia Manor. Su Yu went downstairs and went out when he saw Lord Xia. He smiled. "Lord Xia, long time no see." Su Yu cupped his hands and bowed meticulously. "You're so polite." Lord Xia said with a smile, "Back then, I even called you Grandpa." Su Yu said with a smile, "Yeah, back then, I thought that I might have to stay in the Great Xia Manor for the rest of my life. I fought everywhere for the Great Xia Manor, for the Xia family, for the human race, for my friends. In the end, I realized that I was really young and stupid." Lord Xia was speechless. After a moment of silence, Lord Xia said with a smile, "Aren't you going to invite me in? Let's see how the new research institute is doing." "Forget it, it's too chaotic inside." Su Yu smiled and said, "I won't bother Lord Xia anymore. I know Lord Xia's purpose for coming here. I didn't restrict the Great Xia army, nor did I restrict the people. I only restricted the 3 great academies. Why would Lord Xia stand up for the 3 great academies?" Lord Xiaoho sighed and said, "If I don't stand up, the 3 great academies will probably be empty next year. Aren't you asking for it?" Su Yu smiled and said, "What do you think, Lord Xia?" Lord Xiaoho looked at him for a while. After a long while, he said, "All right, let's not get too close to each other. Tell me what you want me to do. Let's see if I can do it. If I can do it, then I'll try my best. If I can't do it, then I'm here too. If the civilized academy is finished, there's nothing I can do." Su Yu calmly said, "First, pardon my 2 masters. They can stay in the celestial battlefield, but they're not guilty. Second, Martial Uncle Feng Chi's life must be preserved. If he dies, there's no need to talk about anything else. Third, that Shan Xiong wants to enter the Great Xia Civilization Academy. He can come and fight a life-and-death battle with me. If he wins or loses, he can enter. Fourth, that Yuan Qingdong. I know that you can't do anything to him. It's all right. Publicly apologize to me and Martial Uncle Feng Chi. In addition, the Great Xia Manor will distribute the cultivation technique and collect 1 million merit points. If Yuan Qingdong doesn't appear, he won't pass it on. Fifth, Manor Head Xia has killed many celestials of the Tianyi celestial race. I want a complete celestial corpse, complete, and everything. Sixth, for the divine inscriptions alone. The Great Xia Manor will receive a fee for learning the cultivation technique according to the 10,000 scriptures. 200 merit points for the upper portion and 500 merit points for the lower portion. Don't ask why, there's no why. They know it for themselves. Seventh, all the profits of the Great Xia Mansion will be mine. The academy, the mansion, and the quest realm cannot be stopped. How to negotiate, Marquis, go. Eighth, I want the Great Xia Mansion to exchange for the Sea of Consciousness realm. In front, Marquis Xia did not say anything. When he reached the 8th point, Marquis Xia rubbed his head and smiled, "All right, you are not prepared to fulfill my wish. All right, I will pass on these conditions, but, the possibility is not high." Su Yu said calmly, "Then there is no need to talk about it. Do whatever you want with the 3 major academies. If it doesn't work, joining Martial Dragon Academy and Zhangjing Academy will be the same. The 3 major academies are nothing to begin with, so it serves them right to cut off their inheritance. Also, the highest version of the joint aperture technique will not be passed on to the 3 major academies. In the future, all my cultivation techniques will not be passed on to the three major academies. This includes the pure origin technique that the Jin clan obtained, and the soul-devouring technique that the Xia clan obtained. Everything will not be passed on to the three major academies. Suyu said indifferently, not only that, in the future, if the multi-divine script sect publicly splits its up, it will not be passed on to the three major academies. The current cultivation technique did not have much of an impact on the three major academies soaring into the sky. But, what about the cultivation techniques in the future? What about the splitting technique? Lord Xiao's expression changed slightly as he said, "Are you really forcing the three great academies to close down?" "Yes." Suyu said calmly, "That's exactly what I'm thinking. All these years, because of your indulgence, I feel that it has increased the prestige of some people. Some of them were initially just testing the waters, but later on, they realized that you guys did not dare to do anything, so they became bolder and bolder. Since that's the case, if you guys aren't going to do anything, then why do I have to be so hot-faced and cold-hearted?" After saying that, Suyu continued, "Then what about Yuan Qingdong being the deputy prefect? Don't tell me I have to give him merit. What a joke. Not only the great Xia mansion, but the other manors are also spreading the cultivation technique. I also have a request, not to share it with those in the seeking stage, even if the other manors keep it for themselves. They don't have the portion for those in the seeking stage because they don't do anything. Kid, there are quite a number of people in the quest realm who are invincible." Suyu said calmly, "I know what the Marquis reminded me of, but I've kept the shares for the other manors." "That's enough. Those in the quest realm are the ones who are invincible, not the descendants of the invincible ones. The descendants of the invincible ones, why should I be afraid of them? What can they do to me? I've kept the shares for the various manors that belong to the quest realm. As for those in the quest realm who can't get their share, that's because they don't have the ability. If they have the ability, they can go to the various manors and ask for it. This is a secret agreement. The various manors will do it themselves. It has nothing to do with me. It's useless for you to say that it has nothing to do with me." Suyu interrupted with a smile, "I only need it to be nominally unrelated. Do they want it or not? Yes, I'll offend someone. If I don't want it, I'll be at a disadvantage. What does it have to do with me? If they vent their anger on me, they'll be looking for trouble. The Darming King will help me stand up for them." Lord Xiaoho was also speechless. After a while, he said, "All right, I'll only be in charge of passing on the message. If you want Yuan Qingdong's 100 merit points, I think it's nonsense. It's impossible for you to even apologize publicly. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories." Chapter 1164. 1164 Chapter 278 Beating a Bull in the Air requests monthly subscription, 2. Suyu smiled and said, "It's better if it's impossible. If it's possible, I won't mention it. I'll let him slap his own face. Should I do it or not? If I don't do it, will the three great academies hate me more or hate him more? It doesn't matter if they hate me. I'm not in the great Xia manor, so it doesn't matter if they hate me, it doesn't matter if he's not afraid. I'll see how he can continue to survive in the great Xia manor." Lord Xiaoho smiled and said, "He's a member of the Yuan family. The Yuan family has invincible. It has nothing to do with me." Suyu smiled and said, "To put it bluntly, invincible is looking for trouble with me because of this kind of person. That means that he's an enemy in the first place. The great Ming King can still suppress him." Lord Xiaoho was helpless as he kept mentioning the great Ming King. The great Ming King will really make a move. Aren't you afraid? Suyu smiled and said, "Yes, why wouldn't I? So what if I make a move? The benefits that I bring are greater than the benefits that he brings. Just like how Lord Xiaoho taught Brother Hu Yu in the past, I offended the Zhou family. It doesn't matter. The Xia family isn't afraid. As long as I bring enough benefits, it's fine. Lord Xiaohou said so in the past. Why do you feel that it's impossible today? Could it be that Lord Xia felt that I was unable to bring about such great benefits? Lord Xia nodded slightly and smiled. That's right. As he said that, he sighed. Since we've already said this much, let me say one last thing. Long Wu wants you to return to the Great Xia Manor. You can kill whoever you want. Are you interested? Su Yu did not say anything. Lord Xia sighed. I know you won't agree. Su Yu said calmly, it's not that I won't agree, it's just that there's no need. Since the Xia family wants to ensure that manor head advances to invincible, then let's persevere to the end. Otherwise, if we don't gain both sides, the gains won't make up for the losses. Hu Yu and I can be considered friends. He has helped me a lot. Manor head Xia. In the past, I worshipped him very much. There are some things that I know. That day, I took away the essence blood of the sect master of the Heavenly Divine sect. He probably also knows that. I can be considered to owe him one. This time, I'll return it to Manor Head. I'm afraid that Yuan Qingdong won't be able to take out what I want. In the end, the Xia clan will probably have a way to use this 1,000,000 merit points to exchange for a chance. Su Yu said in a deep voice, then exchange it. After exchanging this time, I won't owe Manor Head Xia anymore. From now on, in the Xia clan, other than brother Hu Yu and I having a personal relationship, everything else is for profit. A drop of kindness should be repaid in full. This was Su Yu's creed. Xia Longwu had tacitly admitted that he had taken away the Tianyi Divine Cult's cult master's blood essence back then. This was a debt of gratitude, giving him the capital to trick some people later on. Yuan Qingdong, this person, apologizing, that was also a mild punishment. 1,000,000 meritorious deeds, that was all. If he used this opportunity to repay Xia Longwu's favor, then the two of them would not owe each other. The others did not owe him anything. Xia Huyo was only a personal friend and had nothing to do with the Xia family. Master Xia Ho was silent for a moment before nodding. I will pass on the message to Longwu. After taking a deep look at Su Yu, Master Xia Ho smiled and said, you seem to have grown quite a bit. Su Yu smiled and said, it's still alright. As for the rest of the cultivation techniques, we will talk about it next time. I think that in the future, Master Xiaoho and I will have to deal with each other as well. You're that confident? Lord Xiaoho smiled and said, I already have it. Are we just waiting for it to be made public? No. Su Yu smiled and said, however, the atmosphere in Daming Manor is very good. There are many geniuses. I believe that with everyone's help, I will soon have a huge harvest. Daming Manor. Lord Xiaoho muttered and nodded. Alright, Daming Manor is indeed not bad. Saying that, he was about to leave. Su Yu thought about it and said, in the past, Manor Head Wan promised me that the mountains and seas would not attack me. However, he did not appear that day. He went back on his words. Lord Xiaoho turned his head and smiled. Aren't you still alive? Su Yu frowned. If you're still alive, then don't be too serious. You won't die, so what are you afraid of? He smiled, and Su Yu frowned. I still don't understand. He's already acting like this. Everyone knows that he's acting. Is there really any point? Lord Xiaoho thought for a moment. He shook his head and said, I'm not sure. As for how he's acting, do you know what kind of strength he has? Who knows? Wan Tianxing, this person. I can only say that if he doesn't make a name for himself, he'll already amaze everyone. I don't know what he's going to do. I only know one thing, in the future, I'm afraid that he won't have a good ending. As he spoke, he smiled bitterly. He won't have a good ending. If you don't believe me, just wait and see. In any case, I have a premonition, that fellow will go crazy sooner or later. Kid, don't bother about him. The day he makes his move will definitely be earth-shattering. Kill Invincible. Lord Xiaohu waved his hand, let's not talk about it. There's no point in talking about it. It's just my guess. Killing Invincible might not be everything. In fact, he has long gone crazy. The Great Xia Civilization Academy is his shackle. The rules are his cage. His cage is his cage. When the Great Xia Civilization Academy is no longer the Great Xia Civilization Academy, the rules are no longer the rules, he will be released. Lord Xiaohu chuckled and said, some people are seeking their own death. If they break this shackle, they will suffer sooner or later. As he spoke, he was about to take a few steps when he suddenly turned around and said, in the next 1 to 2 years, cultivate more and strengthen yourself. In a few years, you might not be so comfortable anymore. The source of all the chaos will definitely come from the Great Xia Mansion. His words had a profound meaning. Suyu frowned and did not say a word. The source of all the chaos will definitely come from the Great Xia Mansion. Who was he talking about? Xia Longwu. Myriad Heaven Saint. The Great Xia King. Or Lu Wenyan and the rest. After watching Lord Xia leave, Suyu was silent for a long time. Not long after, Zhu Tiandao arrived, he laughed and said, Suyu, you're rich. Other than being rich, there's also good news for you. The death row camp has exploded dozens of butts. You finally found an opening. I don't know if it's what you need. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1165. 1165 Chapter 278 Beating the Bull from Afar 3. These words sounded awkward. What did he mean by exploding dozens of butts? Suyu was speechless, but he knew that the experiment had probably really come out. He hurriedly said, Manor Head, did you discover any other elemental apertures? No. Suyu was somewhat disappointed, but finding one was fine as well, so he was only missing 2. Manor Head, then I want to go take a look. Come with me. Zhu Tiandao said as he walked, also, the Qin town of the Great Qin Manor wants to talk to you. The main purpose is to spread the fusion technique, the highest level. Sure. Suyu nodded and said, I know the Great Qin Manor. On the heavenly battlefield, the army at the front line can be cheaper. If it's spread in the army, it's free. Zhu Tiandao had a bitter look on his face. Isn't that inappropriate? There's a difference in treatment. Our Daming Manor didn't even spread the word. Suyu said indifferently, the Daming Manor isn't at the front lines. Alright, there was nothing he could say. Suyu said seriously, I still admire the military of the heavenly battlefield. I've also heard that on the front lines of the heavenly battlefield, the Great Qin King is the main commander. Up until now, the military hasn't been in chaos, and the conflicts between the various manors haven't affected the front lines. The Great Qin King has contributed a lot. Overall, the War God Hall has done more than the quest for Enlightenment Realm. The War God Hall is mainly responsible for fighting outside, so at least it hasn't been in chaos. The human race could enjoy peace at the rear. It had to be said that the War God Hall had done quite well. The frontline corps hadn't been in chaos. They were still well organized. Garrisoning, defending, counterattacking, attacking. They all had their own rules. And all of this depended on the Great Qin King's iron-blooded suppression. Chaos on the front lines, death. As the first invincible person to open a prefecture, although this person could not suppress all the other invincible people, he could at least intimidate a large number of invincible people. No matter what faction, on the front lines, they still had to listen to the Great Qin King. Hearing Suyu say this, Zhu Tiandao laughed and said, "That's true. The great Qin king is very cold-blooded, but he's suitable to be a commander. Don't expect him to stand up for anyone. It's impossible for him to stand on his side. This is his personality. If he causes trouble, he'll kill him. Xia Longwu is actually a bit like him, but he's not as strong as him. If the great Qin king retires and Xia Longwu succeeds in attaining the Tao, then the commander at the front line might be Xia Longwu." Manor head Xia, Suyu shook his head and said, "I don't think he's suitable to be a commander. Even though I've never interacted with him before, I can sense that Manor head Xia is a man of character. He's the kind of hero in the pugilistic world. If he kills people and drinks wine, then Manor head Xia can do it, but commander, I don't think he's calm enough." "You're actually commenting on the peak of the sun and moon realm." Zhu Tiandao smiled. "Don't be too ostentatious. That's not it." Suyu smiled and said, "I'm just saying this in front of Mansion Master Xia. When I was young, I watched Mansion Master Xia kill his head. My father worships him very much, and he also made me worship him very much when I was young. I'm just saying a few words of my own feelings." The two of them chatted as they walked. They did not mention anything else. Soon, in the Daming Mansion's death row camp, Suyu met the fellow who had successfully opened his aperture. He was a Sky Realm cultivator. It was quite tragic. Suyu felt that the other party must have opened the wrong aperture a few times and exploded a certain part of his body. Until now, it was still a bloody mess. It was considered lucky that he did not completely explode. In the end, he even managed to open one aperture. Suyu was certain that he had not opened it. He named this aperture, Heaven's Path Aperture. One aperture could reach the heavens. Thinking about it, it made a lot of sense. If a sword were to pierce through this aperture and connect it together, wouldn't it reach the heavens? Suyu used his willpower to sense for a moment and confirmed the location of the aperture. Without any nonsense, he sat down cross-legged on the spot and began to open his aperture. Zhu Tiandao was rendered speechless by what he saw. After all, it was an aperture. How long would it take for one to open one's aperture just by sitting cross-legged? As for Suyu, he had already opened 357 apertures. The body strengthening art was an extremely suitable cultivation technique for opening an aperture. Yuan Qi liquid was devoured like it was free. After about an hour, Suyu opened his eyes and the aperture was opened. Zhu Tiandao was already dumbfounded. "Holy shit! You opened an aperture in more than an hour." Damn it, he had personally seen this kid open an aperture so quickly. Suyu did not say much and smiled, "Thank you, Manor Head. After opening this aperture, I feel that something is different." A divine light flashed in Suyu's eyes as he said, "Manor Head, I'm afraid that the last two apertures are extremely mysterious. I feel that I need some things to assist me. I need the blood essence of the incipient demon race and the primordial divine race. I wonder if the Daming Manor has any in stock." "No." Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, "I really don't. I'll definitely give it to you." There were not many people from the primordial divine race and primordial demon race. To be honest, even if they killed each other, under normal circumstances, the other party would self-destruct. Moreover, the other party rarely fought with us. The great Qin Manor might have some. You can meet with Qin Town and discuss this matter. Moreover, you should prepare for your physical body to soar into the sky. The blood essence of the primordial demon race and primordial divine race is the best. He continued, "The Daming Mansion also has the blood essence of the God clan. It's the blood essence of the Heaven Eye God clan. If you need it, I can provide it to you. However, the strength of the Heaven Eye God clan's body is average. It's enough for ordinary monsters. As for you, I don't think it's enough." At this moment, he still had the supervisor of this death row cell by his side. When he heard this, he was speechless. Listen to this. What did he mean by different lives for different people? This was it. The blood essence of the heavens, a divine race, was said by the mansion master to be unworthy of Su Yu. However, when he thought about how Su Yu had the temperament to kill Ling Yun, well, perhaps he really was unworthy. Putting aside his research field, Su Yu himself was a peerless genius. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1166. 1166 Chapter 278 Beating a Bull in the Air 4. However, he was now somewhat forgotten by others. Right under everyone's noses, they had forgotten that he was a martial arts genius and that he had recuperated to kill Ling Yun. They only remembered that he had created a lot of powerful martial arts. After a while, Su Yu met Qin Town in a tea house, the mansion master of the great Qin mansion. He was imposing without being angry. He was very big and filled with killing intent. To be honest, the first time Su Yu saw Qin Zhen, he thought of Xiao Longwu. These two people were very similar. It was not their appearance, but their temperament. Su Yu had never seen Xiao Longwu before, but he had seen him on television and on the heaven-cleaving blades cultivation technique inheritance. Comparing them, the two of them were very similar. When Qin Zhen saw Su Yu, he did not say anything and did not care that Zhu Tiandao was also there. He directly said, "Men should be killed. Come to the great Qin manor and I'll kill you to your heart's content. What's the point of being in the rear? Go to the front line and fight against the myriad races. There are peerless experts, unparalleled heroes, powerful enemies of gods and demons, and fairy immortals there, just kill them." F***ck. When Su Yu heard fairy immortals, he thought that he would be able to capture her. But when he heard that, he just killed her and almost choked. Zhu Tiandao said speechlessly, "Isn't it better than killing a sun and moon?" Qin Zhen thought for a moment and nodded, "That makes sense. It's fine to come to the back of the great Qin manor. Military city, military town. The myriad clan cult is here. Kill. The enemy is here. Kill. The safest place in the world is better than the great Ming manor. As for the great Xia manor, before Xiao Longwu reached the 9th level of the sun and moon, the great Xia manor and the great Qin manor could be compared. Now, the great Xia manor can't." Su Yu smiled and said, "Thank you for your kindness. Mansion Master Qin, you must be joking. It's better for me to stay in the great Ming mansion." "All right." Qin Zhen did not say much and said directly, "Name your price." "I want the fusion technique, the highest version. Don't fool me with trash. I want the primordial spirit scripture as well. If there's anything more advanced, I want it too. Also, give me all the other cultivation techniques that are useful. Name your price." Su Yu smiled and said, "There's no rush. Manor head Qin, let me ask you, how many yuan apertures does the great Qin manor have?" As he said that, his entire body trembled as the 358 apertures shone with radiance. "Manor head Qin, are there any apertures that I haven't opened?" Qin Zhen looked at him for a long while. He said, "You want to open the heavenly cycle aperture. That's a good idea." There was a guy in the great Qin manor who had opened 321 acupuncture points. After opening them for 27 years, he couldn't close his acupuncture points. After spending a lot of time, he finally reached Ling Yun. When he was about to close his acupuncture points, there was no hope at all. The year before last, he died of old age. "You won't die of old age, right?" "Die of old age?" Su Yu blinked. Qin Zhen laughed. "Die of old age. But he's really not weak. With Ling Yun's 9th level strength, he killed a few mountains and seas. When he was about to die of old age, I discussed with him. He pretended to break through mountains and seas and fished out a sun and moon. When he was about to die, he killed a sun and moon. I beheaded him, and he cut off his head. He died of old age. It can be said that he died without regrets. Su Yu looked forward to it and said, "Indeed, I will die with no regrets." Haha, I told you. Men should be like this. Alright, let's get down to business. There are no more openings. I dare to bet that you have opened up to the limit of humanity. Su Yu felt regretful. It seemed like he could only try another method. The Great Qin Manor has done a lot for humanity. They are all soldiers, so I don't need much. Su Yu quickly said, "You can give me the acupoint fusion technique and the primordial spirit scripture, but I need a batch of blood essence, the blood essence of gods and demons. It would be best if they are all in the sky realm. Some of them are in the Lingyun realm, too. If they are in the early stage of the Lingyun realm, 2 or 3 drops of each will do. If there are more, 5 drops will do." As Su Yu said this, he added, "However, you must have the blood essence of the primordial demon race and the primordial divine race." Qin Zhen raised his eyebrows. After a moment, he nodded, "Sure. But, wait for a few days, and we'll go kill them. We don't have them now, but we've used them all. The Great Qin Manor doesn't keep these things in stock and quickly turns them into battle power. This sort of storage is meaningless. Wait for half a month. I'll get someone to go kill them and try to capture them alive for you." Su Yu was speechless. F***ck. So you don't have any? You want to capture them and kill them now? Zhu Tiandao was also dumbfounded. You don't have any in stock? No. Qin Zhen smiled and said, "What do you need in stock for?" He turned it into battle power and continued to kill on the battlefield. It was hard to say about other things, but things like blood essence could be obtained by killing people, so there was no need to keep them in stock. Su Yu, I heard that your battle power isn't weak either. If you have time, you can go to the Great Qin Manor and have some fun. The Great Qin Manor is most famous for its military headquarters. It can be considered a war academy, and it's not just any war academy. It's filled with military experts who have returned from the front lines. Their military achievements are intrepid, and they have entered the manor to further their studies. Those who are at the Wuxia realm and have opened 36 apertures, don't think that he's weak. Killing a few civilized masters is as easy as killing a little chick. Zhu Tiandao rolled his eyes. Keep bragging, keep bragging. If he was so powerful, your Great Qin Manor would have unified the heavens long ago. Su Yu also smiled. Alright, I'll definitely go if there's a chance. Qin Zhen didn't say much and stood up, then I'll go back now. I'll deliver the things to you in half a month. It's actually pretty good to have the fusion aperture technique, but I'm a little more ambitious. Can you open up 72 or 108 apertures of the fusion aperture technique? It's the type of cultivation technique that can directly fuse the mountains and seas into one. What you're doing now is extremely effective against the Wuxia realm, but it's not friendly towards the mountains and seas. One day, if I can let the mountains and seas fuse into one, then my physical body will enter the sun and moon. This is the true contribution. The current fusion technique, with 36 apertures, was helpful to the mountain and sea fusion technique, but it wasn't very helpful. To 10,000 stones, it was naturally extremely helpful. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1167. 1167 Chapter 278 Beating the Bull from Afar 5. However, Qin Zhen did not think it was enough. He wanted to be stronger. To be able to directly let a person become one with the mountains and seas, step into the sun and moon in the blink of an eye, and become an almighty of the sun and moon, that would be truly awesome. Su Yu did not know whether to laugh or cry as he hurriedly said, "I'll do my best. I haven't reached that stage myself, so I don't have a deep feeling towards this. When I reach that stage myself, I'll be able to have a deeper feeling. That's right. Strengthen yourself as soon as possible. Qin Jin smiled and said, don't bother yourself with small matters anymore. Don't meddle in the matters of the great Xia manor. I know about your teacher's matter. The soldiers of the great Qin manor will also take care of the front line. If you don't mind, you can ask your teacher to cooperate with us and fish a few big fish. With Lu Wenyan's identity exposed, perhaps we can fish an invincible one out. Cough cough cough. Su Yu coughed dryly. Manor head Qin, that's enough. You can leave now. Fishing for what? Qin Jin smiled and said, forget it then. We'll meet again if we're fated. It's a pity that you're still a little weak. Otherwise, in a year or two, you can join in the fun. What a pity. When the time comes, I'll let you see what an invincible battle is. You don't have to think about trivial matters all day. When you're invincible, you have nothing to worry about. No one will dare to provoke you. Before Su Yu could finish speaking, his figure flashed and he was gone. Su Yu felt helpless. I haven't even finished speaking. Invincible? I want to do that too, but unfortunately, I'll need some time. Zhu Tiandao said warily, don't listen to his lies. The great Qin manor has no freedom at all. It's under military control. It's very inhumane. Su Yu smiled and said, don't worry, manor head. I won't run away. Zhu Tiandao muttered in his heart. He felt like he was going to run. It's very unreliable. Looks like I still need to find a woman to tie you up. I just tasted the sweetness and you ran away. Wouldn't that make me the same as Xiao'er Xia? The blood essence of the gods and demons of the great Qin manor still needed to wait for half a month. At this moment, it was already February. Su Yu's conditions for the great Xia manor also quickly spread, and they were extremely harsh. The Sea of Consciousness secret realm, 1,000,000 merit points, the corpses of the celestials. There was one more point. Yuan Qingdong, this sun and moon, had to apologize to Su Yu. Publicly. Because he slandered Su Yu as a traitor. A traitor was just a joke. Which traitor would publicly announce these cultivation methods? No one took it seriously. But to have a sun and moon publicly apologize, slapping his own face, and also paying Su Yu 1,000,000 merit points as compensation. Everyone guessed that Yuan Qingdong would not agree to these few conditions. In any case, the ones that would not be passed on were the 3 great academies. He could just run away, since he was not a local of the great Xia manor. As for Su Yu, he did not step forward to say anything. However, there was a faint rumor that as long as Yuan Qingdong stayed in the Great Xia Institute of Civilization, the cultivation technique created by the primordial spirit research would have some restrictions on the 3 great academies of Great Xia. This was not the end, but the beginning. It was said that the unity spirit technique was being deduced. Once it was deduced, it would be an earth-shattering achievement. The civilized teachers would receive great help from cultivating their nature all the way to the mountains, seas, the sun, and the moon. And because of Yuan Qingdong, the 3 great Xia institutes would probably remain in the restricted area. When Su Yu introduced several cultivation techniques in succession and said that he wanted to deduce the unity spirit technique, it wasn't that there weren't people who believed him. Once he really deduced it, then the ones who would suffer wouldn't be the students. Instead, it would be all the civilized masters. Great Xia Manor. In the deputy prefect's villa, Yuan Qingdong's aura flashed and disappeared, shattering all the furniture. His face was ashen. Just a moment ago, someone from the Xia family came and asked him if he wanted to apologize and calm down so that he wouldn't make a scene. If he really made a scene, he might be fired. In less than half a month, his position as Sun Moon Realm Deputy Prefect would be dismissed. It was a great humiliation. The Xia clan wouldn't kill him, and he didn't do anything either. However, if things got out of hand, the interests of the three great academies would be damaged. The Pavilion Elder Conference would begin, and a vote would be held to decide that his position as deputy prefect might really be dismissed in less than a month. Among the Pavilion Elders, 2/3 of them agreed that if he had to leave, then he had to leave. This was the role of the elders. And now, this trend was extremely obvious. If he didn't settle this matter, he might become the first Sun Moon State deputy prefect to be dismissed from his position. Su Yu. Yuan Qingdong snorted. He originally thought that it was a good thing that he had left. Who knew that he would be struck by Su Yu's strike across space after just saying a few words in the elders' meeting? Yu Hong and the rest of them did not suffer unjustly. Yuan Qingdong furrowed his brows. A moment later, the voice transmission talisman flickered. There is no way to exert pressure on those in the quest realm. Zhu Tiandao exerted pressure on those in the quest realm in the opposite direction. Within the realm, there were already sky-devouring ants that had appeared and devoured all directions. Zhu Tiandao's eldest son had already rushed to the quest realm. The rising dragon drum had been sounded, and the great Han King was about to come out of his closed-door cultivation. The matter was quickly settled. On the side of the great Xia Manor, stability was the priority. Humph. A cold snort sounded. When they came, this was not what they had said. A bunch of bastards. When they came, didn't they say that everything would be taken care of by you? Damn a bunch of bastards. The ones who are embarrassed are not you. Yuan Qingdong's anger flared up. If Su Yu did not spread the cultivation technique, what did it have to do with him? He was just looking for an excuse. Even if he was not there, Su Yu might not have spread it in the great Xia Manor. Damn it, everything had to be borne by him. Damn. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1168. 1168 Chapter 279 Recruitment, Confidential Discussion 1. The matter was still continuing to ferment. At the same time, the various large manors started to spread the primordial spirit, art of writing. Meanwhile, the great Qin and Daming manors quickly started to spread the highest version of the acupoint fusion technique, which was said to completely suppress the repulsive force of acupoints. The Daming manors instantly set off a wave of cultivation technique craze. When the Great Ming War's large manors obtained the cultivation technique, they almost laughed their mouths off. The Daming manor had yet to disseminate the elementary and intermediate level of the joint aperture technique, but in the end, there was no need for it. Instead, they directly sent the highest version, with 36 openings. It wasn't too much, but it wasn't too little either. However, it could practically skip the 10,000 stone realm. This was much stronger than the primordial spirit text technique to the contestants. And the Daming manor's promotion of this cultivation technique wasn't without proof. Instead, they gave an example. The great Xia manor's Zhou Hao cultivated the Thousand Mountains technique, and was said to be unable to enter the 10,000 stone realm of the heaven-grade top-tier cultivation technique. And now, after cultivating the highest version of the aperture synthesis technique, in less than 3 months, he had easily broken through to the 9,000 stone realm. The current Zhou Hao was very famous in the Great Xia Manor. On February 3, the Great Xia Civilization Academy's top 100 list had just been released. Zhou Hao had defeated Jiang Mu in the arena. After entering the academy for more than half a year, he had officially become the top 100. Now, on the Great Xia War Academy's side, they were constantly trying to rope him in. Because Zhou Hao was a genius in the path of the fighter, Zheng Yunhui's grandfather had even gone to talk to Xia Yuan several times. He didn't want to delay Zhou Hao's future. If he went to War Academy, Zhou Hao might be the next Wang Teng. Of course, Xia Yuan just ignored him. He could even easily close his aperture with the Thousand Mountains technique. It could be seen just how powerful this technique was. And the first batch of cultivators who cultivated the elementary and intermediate joint aperture technique had also gradually completed the opening of their apertures. Some of the fellows who had more overlapping apertures had already completed it for quite some time. During this period of time, the number of Stone Realm martial artists had greatly increased. And among the people, in order to pursue strength, there were quite a number of martial artists who cultivated the Thousand Mountain secret art. Now, there were also some such martial artists who quickly began to cultivate the joint aperture technique. Following that, there might be some top 10,000 Stone Realm warriors who cultivated heaven-rank cultivation techniques. As the joint aperture technique came to fruition, Su Yu's name continued to spread in the human realm. The Dual Wu joint aperture technique, Primordial Spirit text art, Primordial Spirit pure origin technique, Primordial Spirit soul devouring technique, and many other cultivation techniques that were known as primordial spirits appeared on the shelves of some large manors and academies. Su Yu's reputation had greatly increased. The conflict between Su Yu and the Great Xia Manor had also spread and become widely known. Many people couldn't help but laugh when they heard of Su Yu. The Great Xia Manor's single divine text sect was blind and had insisted on doing something stupid, ambushing and killing Su Yu. Now, they had forced Su Yu to leave the Great Xia Manor and run to the Great Ming Manor. Almost all the Great Ming Manor's cultivation techniques were being distributed free of charge. Not only was it difficult to distribute the Great Xia Manor's cultivation techniques, but Su Yu had also set up all sorts of obstacles. He had brought this upon himself. If Su Yu was still in the Great Xia Mansion, then all the cultivation techniques today would be given priority to the Great Xia Mansion. How could it be so serious? Yuan Qingdong did not step forward for a long time. He did not apologize. Of course, he also did not make any wild claims. In the past few days, he had been keeping a very low profile. However, keeping a low profile was useless. Keeping a low profile. Su Yu did not authorize the cultivation techniques of the three great academies. Now, the students of the three great academies were full of complaints. Not only did he not authorize the primordial spirit scripture, but he also didn't authorize the highest version of the joint aperture technique to the three great academies. Tell the outsiders to scram. Such cries were heard endlessly in the three great academies, and they couldn't even be suppressed. As for the Xia family, they didn't make a move for a long time. Daming Manor. Su Yu was actually a little strange. He had already been talking to Lord Xia Ho for a few days, and he had enough time to prepare. However, the Xia family didn't seem to have any intention of helping Yuan Qingdong out. Previously, he had said that the Xia family and the Yuan family had come to an agreement. He could cancel those restrictions on Yuan Qingdong. However, the Xia family still had not come to look for him. Su Yu could not be bothered to care anymore. At this moment, he was recruiting people. After talking about it for a few days, Su Yu began to meet these elders today. Drunken Star Restaurant. On the top floor. Su Yu and Wen Zhong arrived together. When they entered, there were already 4 elders. 3 men and 1 woman. They were all very old and had white hair. They had a scholarly temperament. Junior brother Jean, junior sister Kong. Wen Zhong greeted the few old men. Wen Zhong was slightly older and was almost 400 years old. These old men were younger than him, but they were still around 300 years old. As for their abilities, they weren't considered strong. There were 2 at the 7th level of the Soaring Heaven Realm, 1 at the 8th level, and 1 at the 9th level. Those at the Soaring Heaven Realm actually couldn't live for that long. In the path of the fighter, the Soaring Heaven Realm only had a lifespan of 150 years. Civilized masters had to live longer. In the path of the fighter, Soaring Realm cultivators mostly had a lifespan of 150 years. Ling Yun was over 200 years old. In theory, mountains and seas could only live for 300 years. Of course, these were the fighters. Their physical bodies were beginning to decline, and their seas of will had long withered. Because civilized masters had strong willpower, they could generally live longer. If they didn't fight much, they could live longer. But soaring realm cultivators at 300 years old, this was probably the limit. The end of their lifespan. They didn't have much time left. The few elders actually had some age spots on their faces. They could even faintly feel the aura of decay. It was a sign that they were about to reach the end of their lives. The moment Su Yu saw the few elders, he felt a little emotional. It wasn't just them. Wen Zhong, actually, he didn't have much time left. Fighter Ling Yun could live for more than 200 years. Even if Wen Zhong was a civilized master and was at the 9th level of Ling Yun, how much longer could he live? Some of the elders in Daming Mansion didn't have much time left. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1169. 1169 Chapter 279 Recruitment, Confidential Discussion 2. These people weren't the only ones. Principal Hu Xiansheng was one of them. Even if he didn't enter the sun and moon, his lifespan would be used up. These old men probably didn't participate in many battles, or they hadn't fought at all. Otherwise, they wouldn't have lived so long. However, Su Yu didn't feel that there was anything wrong. He had read the information of these people, and it wasn't that they had to participate in battles in order to contribute. The four old men in front of him had contributed quite a bit to humanity. Jin Sheng, 9th level of the Sky Realm, was one of the creators of the will of civilization. Now, he was able to preserve the divine writings of the mountains and seas. Although he had many methods now, the will of civilization was the only method back then. Without the will of civilization, then there wouldn't be the divine writings of the mountains and seas that were preserved today. Kong Yuxian, 8th level of the Sky Realm, was an expert in the extraction of willpower. She was the one who proposed to fill the laboratory with pure willpower. She was also the one who first discovered the use of the Milky Way sand. Wei Qi, 7th level of the Soaring Heaven Realm, was the creator of the Earth Rank cultivation method, the origin returning technique. There were still many people cultivating this cultivation method. Chao Hui, 7th level of the Soaring Heaven Realm, was the creator of the 9 stars bodyforging technique. This bodyforging technique was also used by many Soaring Heaven Realm warriors. The bodyforging effect was not very strong, but the bodyforging process was simple. The four old men had all made great contributions in their respective fields. The academy was not stingy with the heavenly and earthly treasures and extended their lives for many years. Otherwise, even if they did not fight, these people would have almost died. Now, the academy had recommended these four to Su Yu with a glimmer of hope. They hoped that Su Yu could extend their lives and give them a chance to break through. Entering Ling Yun, they might be able to extend their lives for a few years. To enter Ling Yun as a civilized master, one needed to have at least 37 levels of willpower, divine runes, and divine apertures to enter Ling Yun. However, these few had already achieved their willpower and opened their divine apertures, however, their divine runes had yet to reach level 3. There was no other reason. The few elders had sketched too many divine runes and were unable to fully cultivate them. Some of the elders in Daming Mansion had long lifespans after they soared into the sky. They often had all sorts of ideas and sketched all sorts of divine runes. It was not because they wanted to have more divine runes, it was just that sometimes, they would need some divine runes to cooperate with their research. As a result, there were more and more divine runes. Their willpower wasn't enough, and they couldn't nurture enough divine runes. Most of the divine runes were at the first rank, while a small number were at the second rank. It was almost impossible for them to nurture third-rank divine runes. These few people had sketched out many divine runes, as many as gold. It was said that they had sketched out more than 30 divine runes. With more than 30 divine runes, he wasn't too focused on nurturing them. Some of the divine runes were even mutually exclusive and were very messy. How could he allow the divine runes to advance to rank 3? Greetings, teachers. Suyu bowed slightly, and the few elders also had smiles on their faces. Jin Xing's beard and hair were all white. He smiled and said, "Don't be too polite. There's a priority when it comes to cultivation. Those who have reached first place. Junior Marshal Brother Su doesn't need to call us teachers. We are all people of the same path, and today's exchange is also the priority." Kong Yuxian was probably very beautiful when she was young, and she looked very friendly when she was old. At this moment, she said with a smile, "Junior Brother Su, sit down and chat. Senior Brother Wen, we haven't seen each other for a few days, and you seem to be in high spirits. It seems that the acupoint fusion technique has satisfied you." Wen Zhong chuckled and said, "It's still all right. Junior brothers and sisters, you all seem to have aged a little these days. Don't work too hard." The few of them laughed. After beckoning Su Yu to sit down, Jin Xing did not stand on ceremony either. He said, "The principal and principal who have come to talk to us. They hope that we can go to the Primordial Spirit Research Institute to do some work as assistants. Actually, we are already old and our energy is not as good as before. Su Yu, the direction of your Primordial Spirit Aperture research is also not quite the same as our research direction. Senior Brother Wen is an expert in this area, but we are not." When Zhong interrupted, "If you don't want to work, just say it. What excuses do you have?" When Zhong smiled and said, "Junior Brother Su, ever since Junior Brother Jin created civilization, he has been focusing on the stripping and extraction of the divine runes. For hundreds of years, his research on the characteristics of the divine runes has also reached perfection." As he said that, he paused for a moment and said, "In the past, 5 generations came to Daming Civilization University and discussed this knowledge with Junior Brother Jin. Later, Hong Tan introduced the fusion of multiple divine runes and the transfer of the characteristics. It's not that I'm belittling Hong Tan, but most of the early work in this area was Junior Brother Jin's work. The 5 generations should have gotten some inspiration from Junior Brother Jin." Su Yu was surprised, but also shocked. The 5th generation had come to talk to Jin Xing about this. Jin Xing smiled and said, "Senior Brother Wen, you're exaggerating. When the 5th generation came, I was just inspired and spouted nonsense in front of the 5th generation. I didn't do anything. Then." Jin Xing sighed and said, "The 5th generation is a genius." Later, Hong Tan introduced the characteristic transfer and the combination of divine runes. I realized that the 5th generation was much deeper than I thought. On one hand, he focused on cultivation, and on the other hand, he could calm down and study. If the 5th generation didn't die, he would be the first truly invincible civilized master in the human realm. What a pity. The 5th generation was actually younger than him. The 5th generation died more than 50 years ago. When he died, he was only 100 years old. At that age, he seemed to be older than Xiao Longwu, but in the path of civilized masters. To reach this stage, it was much harder to compete with fighters. "Senior Brother Jin, you've been studying this all these years?" Su Yu asked curiously, "Then, have you made any progress in this area?" "Senior Brother, don't misunderstand. I don't mean to question you. I'm just curious and interested. The extraction of divine runes, the transfer of characteristics, the combination of divine runes. This is also an area that our Many Divine Runes department is extremely interested in. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories." Chapter 1170. 1170 Chapter 279 Solicitation, Confidential Discussion 3. He was indeed quite interested in this. Jin Xing smiled and said, "That's true. I almost forgot that you're also an expert in this field. Over the years, if we're talking about results, it's actually not that great. The divine texts are too mysterious. The biggest point is that I discovered a rather special situation. He paused and said, I sketched out quite a lot of divine runes. The divine runes of the celestial race, the demon race, the celestial race, and the human race. I discovered that the divine runes of the celestial race are more independent, while the divine runes of the human race are more complementary. He saw that Su Yu was listening attentively. He smiled and said, let me put it this way. Why are the divine runes of the celestial race very powerful? Because they are independent. Or rather, these divine runes are a single divine rune, but why are the divine runes of the human race weak? Because they are complementary. Jin Xing continued, the so-called complementarity is when you have two divine runes of the human race gathered together. You will find that the divine runes are slightly stronger than a single one. If you have 3 divine runes, then they are slightly stronger. Of course, I have only outlined 6 divine runes of the human race. Jin Xing hesitated for a moment and then said, according to my deduction and guess, the divine runes of the human race are progressively stronger. In other words, when you have drawn more than 10 human divine runes, or even more, your divine runes are actually not weaker than the divine demon divine runes. He shook his head and sighed. However, drawing more than 10 human divine runes takes too much time. This is the first point, and the second point, you will find that when you have drawn more human divine runes, there will be some repulsion force with the other divine runes. Su Yu's eyes moved slightly, and Jin Xing continued, I have also heard some rumors. Mountains and seas break the sun and moon, and the divine runes repel the humans, preventing the humans from entering the sun and moon. Actually, that is not the case. Some people have conspiracy theories, thinking that the gods and demons have put a curse on them, but that is also not the case. Su Yu said with surprise, not the case. Impossible. Senior brother, the divine runes repel the humans. This is something that some mountains and seas have experienced firsthand. In the past 50 years, the difficulty of mountains and seas entering the sun and moon has skyrocketed. Jin Xing smiled and said, I know that. Of course, let me tell you my personal understanding. I think that the divine runes did not actually create any curses. The price to pay is too high. It's not worth it. I think it should be like this. It's not that the divine runes repel the humans. Of course, it might be like this when we reach the peak of the sun and moon. But in the early stages, it's actually not that. It's that the divine runes repel the divine runes. Jin Xing's eyes lit up. 50 years ago was a dividing point. 50 years ago, there were actually very few human wills, and very few people sketched out the human divine runes. Back then, the mainstream was the divine runes. But as the generations developed, the human wills increased. The cultivators from 50 years ago more or less all cultivated some human divine runes. Su Yu was somewhat enlightened. He hurriedly said, you mean that back then, the sun and moon did not outline the human divine runes, so they could smoothly advance. Now, the peak of the mountain and sea realm has more or less outlined a few human divine runes, so the human divine runes repel these divine runes, and not the divine runes. They repel us humans. Yes. Jin Xing laughed. You really do understand. That's easy to say. I think so, because based on my personal experience, the divine runes of the human race are exclusive. He thought for a moment and said, actually, I've always wanted to do something. I want to gather some information and see if those people who are stuck at the peak of the mountain and sea realm have some human divine runes. If we strip away the human divine runes, will these people be able to advance to the sun and moon realm? Jin Xing said regretfully, I've heard that it's best to strip away the divine runes. Actually, this is also possible, but, in this way, many people's fighting strength will be greatly reduced. In fact, it will cause the strength of a civilized master to drop. The loss will be too great. In that case, why don't we try to strip away the human divine runes? After all, to many people, the outline of the human divine runes is just an accident. It won't be of much help to their strength. At this moment, Su Yu's heart was shaken. Jin Sheng was doing the opposite. He deduced that the human race's divine writing was exclusive. Su Yu, on the other hand, was somewhat in agreement. That was because when he had drawn the divine writing of another race, it had been destroyed by the Golden Book. If the book was a divine writing, then was it the divine writing of the human race? Exclusive. It wasn't that the divine writing of the gods and demons was exclusive to the human race's divine writing. Instead, it was the other way around. The divine writing of the human race was exclusive to the divine writing of the gods and demons. When some mountains and seas advanced, the divine writing was exclusive to them. Everyone subconsciously felt that it was the divine writing of the gods and demons that was exclusive to them, because these divine runes were more powerful. And the human divine runes alone were very weak. Su Yu took a deep breath and looked at Jin Sheng. He nodded and said, "Senior brother, I actually agree with what you said. I also feel that the divine runes have cursed all of their wills. The price is too high. The experts who advanced to the Sun and Moon realm 50 years ago might not have sketched the human divine runes, or very few. If you have the conditions, you can check it out." Jin Sheng smiled bitterly. "There's no way to check it out. In the Sun-Moon realm 50 years ago, there were only those who were invincible, or some at the peak of the Sun-Moon realm. There weren't many at the mid-stage of the Sun-Moon realm. Where would you find such big shots, including those who would be stuck at the peak of the mountain in Sea realm 50 years later? The divine runes are a secret. Even if you ask them, they won't tell you." Su Yu nodded and thought for a moment. "Actually, the best way is to find someone to try it out. Find someone at the peak of the mountain in Sea realm and see if they have any human divine runes. Strip them and see if they have any hope of entering the Sun-Moon realm.